thousands of years. And it has nothing to do with um, the monarchy. Like, if you look at the history of Iran, it goes back, like the lion, um, the earliest flag of a lion within the Iranian, like the Persian Empire, goes back, in fact, almost 4,000 years, I think, or maybe I'm 4,000 years. Yeah, so that was like the beginning of the Persian Empire. And the earliest depiction was a man who was worshiping a lion. And what was standing on the lion's back was the queen. So an Iranian king was worshiping his Iranian queen who was standing on the lion's back. And that goes back 4,000 years. So the lion and sun has been an emblem and a symbol of the Iranian people for years. And there's something within the Iranian culture, like when we have a hero, we call them Shir Mard or Shir Zan. And Shir means lion. And so the lion has been part of our culture for over 4,000 years. And yeah, like we're lionesses, we're lions. And it's just because we have fought adversity, we have fought um, the genocide of our culture, we have fought the genocide of our language for thousands of years, and we have survived, and we are still here, and we are still going strong, and we are reviving our culture and our history, and we will not stop. And that includes speaking out against hatred and speaking out against anti Semitism, because again, our history goes back thousands of years, and Iranians, we know the truth, and we will never apologize for speaking out against the truth.
Absolutely. All right, I want to go to Kirk. Kirk, thank you for coming up. It's good to have you. You've been here for a little bit. I want to go to you first. Go ahead, Kirk.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you kicking out the Hinkle supporters here. It's absolutely insane that anyone listens to that absolute clown. And I'm actually quite surprised that there is an 82-year-old Twitter user here. What is going on? It's quite astonishing. But listen, I just want to thank all the Iranian and the Persian brothers and sisters here that's been supporting Israel and fighting with us at the misinformation game. But we're all in the same boat. It's one of my goals here is to clear up my schedule coming to the new year and start pushing the government into identifying IRGC as a terrorist group. It's absolutely shameful and disgraceful that we have those the rub shoulders with terrorists coming to Canada to do their business as they please. It's not a secret. We know what they're up to, and sooner or later, the issues in the Middle East start and end in Iran and to their current Islamic government. It's the people of Iran need to be free. Then the Middle East will be free once the Iranian regime will stop funding terrorism. Hamas is funded by terrorism. The Houthis is funded, by Iran. The Houthis is funded by Iran. The Hezbollah is funded by Iran. And the whole Middle East is just trying to move on. Really, you see the United Arab Emirates is trying to move on. You see the Saudi Arabia trying to move on. Jordan and Egypt and Lebanon, which will probably have their own little internal conflict, but they're all trying to move on to the 21st century. And Iran, the government, is the only one that's holding its people back, holding its people hostage, slaughtering. It's never comes on to the news, unfortunately, the treatment that the Iranian people get under this government, except once in a while there is someone with enough publicity to get it out there. But the Iranian regime is the only thing that's really one of the top things that's still holding the world back especially the Middle East in its current state. If you look back at the pictures of Iran from 50 years ago, if you look at the pictures of Iran of Lebanon from 50 years ago, of Egypt, of Jordan, it was a total different world. And the only ones that are still holding on to this world and trying to get it and maintain it under this dictatorship like hold is the Iranian regime, and they have to go. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it, Kirk. Thank you. And I give you a follow. And thank you for your amazing, sincere comments about our community. And thank you for coming in. Really is refreshing to hear that because we've been just going ad nauseum to try to gain freedom, gain legitimacy, and we need voices that are not Iranian to hear our plea. But I appreciate you, my friend, and I gave you a follow. And please do stick around if you have anything else to add. It's really awesome to have you. Co-host, who is next? Who do we go to? Because I am very busy with messages, so I think
Yeah,
let's
I
go.
could.
Go ahead,
Uh,
Charles.
yeah, let's go to Sean next, and then we'll go from there. Sean, floor is yours.
Thank you, Alex, the Shawsman, and Sarah for hosting this space. And I wanted to personally thank Goldie as a fellow Iranian Canadian. I'm very proud that we have somebody to be our voice in the Canadian government, and it's very heartwarming to have you to represent not just myself, but all of us, all of Iranians here in Canada. And from Alberta, I would say that the Conservative Party for sure has our vote. But I have a question regarding some of the, specifically when it comes to listing not only just the IRGC as a terrorist organization, but also cracking down on other methods that the regime has been using. Now, we've had many reports of the Canadian intelligence cracking down or and making arrests of people who were laundering money. And so that's more of the RCMP, Canadian intelligence side of things. Doesn't really have to do with the politics. And someone can argue that it can be cracked down, but other revenues, and I'm pretty sure some people might not like hearing this, but for instance, the imports of foods as well as exports to Iran. So in 2022, there were $280 million exports, including seed oil and agricultural products, which goes into big manufacturers who are either partially or directly owned by the regime or indirectly through one of the mullah's kids. And also, like for instance, the import of foods such as like saffron and other like things that like us Iranians are pretty much obsessed with. That it's not as much as the exports, but it's 20. We're talking about $26 million, or just over $26 million just in 2022, and other products. And I know that doesn't sound like a big amount, like a huge amount of money, but it's the little strikes that takes out the tree. And I wanted to ask if is there any discussions regarding kind of also to not to mention the dozens of currency exchanges, because a lot of Iranians when they want to send money back home or from Iran, but that also opens up a very vulnerable area for people, like small amounts of money to be transferred between Canada. And we know how they operate because they pool the money in here and then they just someone transfer to the account in Iran. So the regime can easily use the pool of money here to do whatever they want without any trace of them having money. And so is there anything being discussed in the Conservative Party to crack down on these specific parts, apart from the designation of the IRGC as a terrorist organization? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments and for your questions. Barodaram, like, you have no idea. Like, we have been speaking out about this for years, and you have. I'm sure you have been as well. And part of the reason why um, Iranian Canadians are calling for the IRGC to be put on the terrorist list is to literally stop all of this, because if the IRGC was on the terrorist list, then they would not be allowed to import um, these products into Canada. And I'm not talking about all products. I'm talking about the products that are controlled by the Islamic regime in Iran, right? Like, believe me, I love saffron. You know, I think like a few weeks ago, someone accused me of being like one of 700, because there was a global news report that came out by an Iranian Canadian journalist. And Alex, I'm going to connect you with her because she should be on your next space because she is an amazing, amazing journalist, amazing reporter. And she did a global news report, like a special investigation that she did for like a year on how Canada has become a safe haven for the Islamic regime in Iran. So Nigar Mojtahidi, you need to have her on your next space, and I'll connect you with her. But she reported on this and how the Islamic regime has become a safe haven for the for Canada. And part of that is that you have these IRGC terrorists who come to Canada with they abuse the um economic immigration system, right? Like they abuse the business immigration program or whatever it's called, and they're coming here with the blood money of Iranian people. They're coming here with the stolen money of Iranians. And just like a few days ago, the IDF, and there's an Iranian channel for the IDF. If you didn't know that, yeah, the IDF has a Farsi channel. It's called IDF Farsi. I follow them, and it's an amazing Twitter account because they have Iranians who are, Jewish, and some of them are not Jewish, but they have Iranians who are part of the IDF, and they send messages of support and love and hope to Iranians within Iran and around the world about how we are united against the Islamic regime in Iran. And just recently, they exposed the fact that the Islamic regime has been exporting tea, just chai. Like all Iranians drink chai. Like chai is like, we drink more tea than water, right? Like we all know this. They have been exporting tea around the world, and it's supposed to, like, and they explain that like there's two different grades of tea. There's like the first grade tea and like a second grade tea, and the second grade tea is cheaper, but the terrorist Islamic regime has been exporting this second grade of chai um as the first grade, and by doing so they're able to automatically like increase the dollar value, which has amounted to about over $3 billion in additional funding for the Islamic regime in Iran. And that has allowed them to fund terrorism around the world. So, you know, the best way to fight this and counter this is to get the IRGC on the terrorist list in Canada, because that would immediately freeze their bank accounts. That would immediately stop Canadian banks from allowing to do business with IRGC owned companies. That would immediately allow um, Canadian companies to say, we will not do business with you anymore. But Justin Trudeau refuses to do that. He's refused to do that for years, and I don't understand why. And Nigar Mojtahidi actually posted a video a few weeks ago where she asked Justin Trudeau, why do you refuse to put the IRGC on the terrorist list? And he could not give a proper answer. And I even had like, I'm going to say this in public, but I had reporters reach out to me on like off the record. I had like major reporters reach out to me off the record asking me, Goldie, why is Justin Trudeau saying this? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I actually legitimately do not know Why, at this point in time, when everyone in the world knows that the terrorist Islamic regime in Iran, who funds Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis and others, I don't know why Justin Trudeau refuses to put them on the terrorist list. So this is where we are right now. And the only politician who has actually said unconditionally that he will list the IRGC as a terrorist entity in Canada is Pierre Poilievre. And take that for what it's worth. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't know why Justin Trudeau won't put the IRGC on the terrorist list. I don't.
Because he's in the pockets of these bastards. Let's not be politically correct for what it is. The guy's a scumbag, and he's going around in the pockets. And his father was a communist lover, so it goes hand in hand. But I wanna get to
I mean his brother was paid by Press TV to do,
right.
an Iranian video back in
Yeah.
like 10 years ago. So I don't know. I mean, again, I don't know. And then you have Majid Johari, who basically started a petition to try to reopen diplomatic relationships between the Islamic regime and Canada in 2016, which horrified Canadians because Stephen Harper shut down the Islamic regime embassy in Canada because everyone knew that it was a den of spies. So actually, you know what? The day that I became a conservative, the day that I literally became a conservative for life, was the day that Stephen Harper announced that he's shutting down the Islamic regime embassy in Canada. And that was years before I even knew that I was going to be a politician. That was in 2012. That was in 2012. I didn't even become elected until 2018. So 6 years prior to me being even elected, Stephen Harper said he's shutting down the Iranian embassy in Canada. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's finally a government in Canada that understands what Iranians are going through, that is listening to us, that is paying attention to the fact that the Islamic regime is importing terrorism into Canada. So there you go.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wanna get to some of these hands I see coming up, and co-host, just let me know. We're gonna keep this room going for a little bit longer because a lot more people are coming in. I want to go to Stealth, then I'm gonna go back. Well, Kirk, I want to go to you first because you had your hand up. Then I'll go to Stealth, and then I'll go to my friend Daniel. And I see Sin City's here. It's good to see my good friend. So I'll go to Kirk. Kirk, you had your hand up, so I'm gonna go back to you. Please go ahead. Kirk, I think you just muted yourself.
Oh, sorry. My bad. I just wanted to add to what Goldie was saying and to Sean's answer. Like, the government can't really do anything unless the IRGC is designated as a terrorist group, because then the financial transactions are regulated by FinTrack, and that's what locks everything up essentially. And this is exactly what we need, because we don't know the depth of the money that's being laundered in Canada. We know there is a whole bunch of real estate in Toronto area, GTA, that is owned by RGC and co, and they come there and celebrate as they come as they go. And we know they're very active in Vancouver. Now, one of the reasons why I want to start a petition again, so there was a petition in Canada, I think in 2020, there was one in 2012, I think, and then there was one in there was a petition a while ago, but I've been told from insiders, and I was talking to a few MPs, and they pretty much blankly say that the Iranian regime has the Liberal Party by the kahunas. They're working with a lot of them. I mean, it's quite obvious when you don't designate a government, a regime that slaughters people. I mean, you can't be calling yourself a feminist when the government that you want designate as a terrorist group murders girls because the one wear a hijab will cover their head. It's absolutely barbaric. But one of the reasons why I want to bring it up is because we can expose who is in cahoots with those people. And this is one of the things we need to go after, start exposing this corruption and terrorism that's happening in Canada. Because I know a lot, if for our American friends here, it's Canada is a hotbed for terrorist activity. It just doesn't make it to the news as much, but there is so much stuff happening here. It's absolutely insane, and there's just not enough talks about it here. And we need to bring a lot of this stuff up into the air.
Yeah, yeah, no, I can't agree with you more, my friend. I think Canada needs a prime minister that has an Iran policy that is consistent, not this appeasement. I think appeasement has gotten us the worst genocide since 9/11 for the Jewish community, and what just happened last year for our revolution. So I cannot agree with you more, and I appreciate you, Kirk, as always. And please do put your hand up if you have anything else to say. I want to go to my friend Daniel. Daniel, I think it's the first time I've ever had you into space. You're with Yuani. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. I want to go to you, my friend. You have the floor. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you, Alex. Thanks, Goldie. Very, very interesting. Just wanted to respond to Goldie expressing her disbelief at the fact Trudeau continues to refrain from designating the IRGC. What I've heard from speaking to some Canadian officials is that their excuse is we can't do it because the IRGC are an official part of the Islamic Republic of Iran government. Obviously, it's just an excuse not to do it. Hezbollah is part of the Lebanese government. Hamas is the government of Gaza. I think Canada added something like 17 new groups to the terror list in 2021 alone, including like the Proud Boys, for example. So it is just an excuse. The other thing that I heard to complement that was they are scared of Iranian blowback retaliation. And I've heard that a lot in other countries like the UK, especially. But as everyone in this space will know, the calculus of Iran doesn't change. That would make absolutely no difference to anything in terms of what they plan to do and their nefarious activities. So that's just a couple of things. I guess my question on that to Goldie is, what does she think the chances of Canada actually proscribing the IRGC 100% in 2024 are? And then I've got another question, maybe very interested in the Qatar stuff at the moment. I mean, Qatar, they obviously fund Hamas to the tune of billions over the past 10 years or so, including 300, 400 million every single year. They're pretty much suborning a lot of Western interests, definitely US, definitely the UK. And I'm seeing a lot of Canada stuff as well. I wonder if she has any just initial comments on anything like that. But IRGC prescription chances, I'd be very interested to hear her thoughts.
Thank you, Daniel. So my disbelief in Justin Trudeau and the Liberals not prescribing the IRGC as a terrorist entity is basically the politically correct way, I guess, for me to say that I'm horrified that Justin Trudeau refuses to put the IRGC on the terrorist list, and shame on Justin Trudeau. And I've actually attended rallies, and I will share um, a, a tweet that I made recently where I basically said shame on Justin Trudeau for not listing the IRGC as a terrorist entity. So it's not really disbelief. It's just more like, I guess, trying to be politically correct and nonpartisan, I guess, in that sense. Because one of the challenges I have as a politician is when I speak about Iran, like speaking out against terrorism shouldn't be a partisan issue, right? Like we're all human beings. And regardless of where you are on the political spectrum in a Western civilized country, doesn't matter if you're NDP or liberal or conservative or whatever. Like within the political spectrum of the West, there should not be any tolerance for Islamofascism. And to me, it's just very confusing and a little bit frightening that we have a prime minister in Canada who literally literally just announced that, you know, they're going to put tampons in, you know, all bathrooms. And I have no issues with that. Like, if you want to do that, fine. Like, you know, whatever issues are out there. But, you know, you're more concerned about putting tampons in all bathrooms, but you're less concerned about the fact that you have Islamic regime terrorists in Canada who are, by the way, literally anti anti-gay, anti-homosexual, anti-LGBTQ. Like, one of the biggest populations of Iranians, one of the biggest Iranian diaspora politicians around the world. Sorry, not politicians. Iranian diaspora refugees around the world are within the LGBTQ community, because the LGBTQ community has zero rights in Iran. Like, if you come out as an LGBTQ, or if someone finds out that you're part of that community, you're immediately at risk, and you have two options, and the two options are horrific. You can either be executed, or you can be forced to have a sex, what's the word, a
transition surgery.
Yeah, transgender surgery. And like, that's horrific, because there are so many gay men in Iran who have been forced to have transgender surgery to become women.
Goldie, are you
Not
saying that
just
the
just because no, but let me finish. They were forced to have transgender surgery and become women just because the terrorist Islamic regime believes that if you are a man and you are gay, that means you are a woman. And that means you have two options. You can either be executed, which means being hanged from a crane, or we can force you to change your gender to get into the right gender. So it's just so messed up. It's so messed up that you know, we have people in Canada who are out there marching and saying, you know, gays for Gaza, queers for Palestine, whatever you want to say it. Meanwhile, that very same community in the Middle East is one of the biggest proportions of the refugee and asylum seekers who come to Western countries, because they are one of the top persecuted minorities in the Middle East. And it is horrifying. It is horrifying. And it breaks my heart, because the people who are out there holding signs that say gays for Gaza or queers for Palestine, or, you know, gays for Iran or whatever, they wouldn't last one day in Iran. And that's why whenever we have our pro-democracy, free Iran rallies, you see the gay pride flag everywhere. You see the transgender flag everywhere, because when Iranians are speaking out about a free Iran, we literally mean free Iran for everyone. So I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, Sarah, go ahead.
I was just going to add really quickly to what Goldie is saying, and just say that this kind of goes along with the hypocrisy of the regime, right? We know that they are so anti freedom of everything, really, that it has become the sex capital change of the world. And that's something that a lot of people don't know about, is that they would rather the gay men of Iran change their gender than to accommodate or to accept them for who they are. So that's kind of, just a little bit, if you don't know that about Iran, that is something that happens there. And then I also quickly wanted to add that we do have a couple of briefings that are happening this week. They're congressional briefings in Congress. One is going to be a closed briefing on Tuesday regarding the post October 7th policy, and that will be in Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And then we also have another hearing, which will be open, and it will be the Financial Services Committee, and the U.S. envoy for Iran, I think his name, Abram Pally, will be testifying, along with Elizabeth Rosenberg, who works for the U.S. Treasury. So if you're interested on Iran policy, I wanted to throw that out there. I pinned up my tweet on this in the Nest. I think it's really important that we watch out for all of these things that are happening, not only in Canada, but in the States, so we can kind of keep track of where everyone is at as far as U.S. policy toward Iran, Canadian policy toward Iran, and keep moving forward, because obviously we want to see more pressure on the regime from our politicians.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that, Sarah Jane. I think that's very important. And thank you for the wonderful questions, guys. I love the brain cell growth that we get in some of these spaces, because sometimes we just lose them in a lot of these other spaces. And Goldie Jr., you're doing amazing. I want to say, guys, this app is known for being glitched. I am not booting you down. I promise none of my co-hosts are booting you down. If you do lose connection, please do come back up, because I know a few of you have already been booted by this wonderful app we call X. So I just wanted to mention that it's not me. Don't take it personal. So if you are trying to speak, we're in order, so that way we can do it. So, Sin, I know you came back down. If you want to speak something, please do come back up. We would love to hear more voices. I want to go to Stealth. Stealth, thank you for coming in. It's good to have you. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks so much. Hey, everybody. Nice to meet you, Goldie. So I was thinking about what you were saying in terms of Trudeau, and I think you have to look at whatever compromat that either the Russians shared with the Iranians on Trudeau. Sometimes it's not even money that's needed in order to stay friendly with a terrorist organization. Sometimes they have enough on you that you're required to do their bidding. So sometimes it's as simple as that. What I'd like to understand is the coordination or the pressure that comes from the IRGC lobbying group in, let's say, the U.S., and what kind of pressure that puts on even Canadian infrastructure. And is there any coordination that you see there, or any of you see there, for that matter? And does the policy, the current policy of, let's say, this administration, and let's say 8 years under the Obama administration also impact the Canadians' policy? Have you seen any cross reference there? Thanks.
So thank you very much for the question. I actually listened to a number of your spaces, Stealth Medical, and I think you're amazing. I think I follow you, and thank you for everything you're doing as well. In terms of like coordination between the pro-Islamic regime lobby in North America, it's absolutely a thing. Um, as you're well aware, in the States, there's an organization called NIAC, the National Iranian American Council, and they have been called out by several pro democracy Iranians. NIAC does not represent Iranians. They are, in fact, regime apologists. Trita Parsi, and there's like Farnaz Fasihi, and like a whole bunch of other, like, pro Islamic regime lobbyists,
Or more
and not just Iranians. Like there's also like non-Iranians, like to the point where I called out some of them on Twitter a while ago and they blocked me right away, which to me was like a badge of honor, because even then, like I like when I called them out, I probably had like 3,000 followers, and they just blocked me because they felt threatened. And the reason the Americans haven't sued me is because they tried suing like other people who called them out, and an American judge basically said, "Well, based on what they're saying, they have a legitimate reason to think that you are part of the Islamic regime lobby group." And there is actually, it's not just in the States; it's also in Canada. No organization in Canada has gone through court yet. However, I did call out one particular organization in Canada, and I just shared that tweet in this group space. And the reason that I was able to speak about them in the Ontario legislature is that when I'm in the Ontario legislature, as a politician, anything that I say is parliamentary privilege. So I can't be sued for what I say when I'm speaking in the Ontario legislature. And when I made that speech, they actually sent me a cease and desist letter, which I thought was really hilarious. And I teased them and I laughed about them on TikTok. And I was like, you guys are,
Sorry, who
you know,
sent you that letter, Goldie?
I just if you look at the tweet that I shared, you'll see who it was. Um, I just don't want to say it because everyone's monitoring me as a politician,
Yes, yeah.
but but every single Iranian Canadian will know exactly which organization I'm speaking about, and it might have the acronym of ICC. But the tweet that I just shared explains everything. So I spoke out against them in the Ontario legislature, and they didn't like that. So they sent me a cease and desist letter, and they tried to threaten me with a defamation lawsuit, which I thought was hilarious because I was like, okay, like this is Canada. As an Ontario politician, I am entitled to say whatever I want to say in the Ontario legislature. And you can't sue me for defamation because that goes against the laws of, like parliamentary privilege. And, that was a bit of a joke. But Stealth Medical, just to say, like, there are numerous groups in the United States and in Canada, and they have been in power for several years. And I feel like it's, now with this new generation of Iranians, whether we're in politics or in other positions of power, like we're speaking out. And, again, as the first Iranian Canadian woman politician in Canada, I've been speaking out about a number of these things, and I have been consistently attacked, but I'm still here and I'm going to keep on going because, you know, it's, I might be the first one, but I guarantee you I will not be the last one. And there will be many, many more Iranian Canadian politicians, men and women, who will stand up and speak out against this.
Just to add quickly, the House of Commons has actually passed a motion in June 2018 to immediately list the IRGC as a terrorist group. And then the Liberal government, Justin Trudeau's government, came in power, and they've done absolutely nothing about it.
Exactly. And so the House of Commons is federal. So House of Commons is for all of Canada. And I'm actually provincial. So I'm considered, like, I guess the American version would be I'm a state politician. So I'm a state politician for the state of Ontario in American terms. In Canadian, it would be, I'm an MPP for the province of Ontario. So, I mean, I can pass whatever motion I want, but at the end of the day, because of the, division of powers in Canada with the Constitution, it's up to the federal government and Justin Trudeau to really label the IRGC as a terrorist entity, and they refuse to do so. So all I can do, I have no jurisdiction, I have no power to put the IRGC on the terrorist list, but what I can do is at least speak out against it. And, because I'm an elected official in Canada, regardless of whether or not I have the jurisdiction or the authority to make a law, people are paying attention to me because they're like, oh, here's a politician who's speaking out against this. Maybe we should pay attention. And it's taken me 4 or 5 years, but people are finally starting to pay attention. And to me, that gives me hope. That gives me hope that we can do something for Canada. We can do something to speak out against this terrorism that has been slowly creeping into Canadian countries, and Canada and the States, and creeping into our Canadian values and American values. And, like, we need to stand up and speak out against this, because if we don't, who will? And we're seeing the effects on the streets right now. We're seeing how they're attacking the Jewish community. We're seeing how they're doxing Iranian women. Like, it's insane. It's insane. Like, they're doxing Iranian women because we are speaking out against Hamas. And that should send a signal to every single person who's listening right now.
That's the thing, Goldie June. They are listening. This room is almost at 100 people right now, and the questions, the just the feedback you're giving, it's I think I'm not gonna say this room, but like I think the narrative is changing slowly but surely. The fact that mob mentality has become a normality in Canada, in the United States. One of my friends, she's a journalist, and she lives in New York, and you see all these terrorist loving simps out here just like it's normal all of a sudden. It's quite disgusting, but people are starting to find out, you know?
I want to say one final thing to Goldie, because I'm in two spaces at the same time. I can say that, Trudeau destroyed Canada during the pandemic. He single-handedly created the largest campaign of cognitive dissonance and neurolinguistic programming to abuse an entire nation. And to unravel that level of abuse, it can be done quickly, but it's going to take at least 3 to 5 years. And you need to have a conservative in government for at least 20 years to fix the mess that he's made, unless they strategically know how to go about it, figure out the mistakes that have been made, and enact things very quickly. Because otherwise, we call Canada a failed state. We call it commie Canada. Who would have known that it would have come to this under his leadership? And people were seduced, right, because of a pretty face, and that pretty face. Like I always say to guys, just because the girl looks pretty on the outside doesn't mean she's not ill on the inside. So it's the same thing with a pretty boy face like Trudeau, or you have Gavin Newsom, or any of these guys that people try to put in a position. They don't realize the illness that can be in somebody's head. Doesn't matter what the face looks like. And pretty boy Trudeau duped a lot of people and destroyed a country over COVID. So that's all I have to say.
You're 100% on that. Like for me, it's like, when he did blackface at an Arabian Nights party, I'm like, I don't know how racist you are, but it's like you have to be double racist to go to like an Arabian Nights party and do blackface, because
No, you
not
just have
only
to
are
be
you
dumb and have a low
like,
IQ and have an extreme
well,
hubris,
it's
and that's what he
like
has.
if you want to be racist, at least be racist to the proper race. Like, do brown face or do beige face. Like, I'm beige face, right? So it's like, if you want to go to Arabian Nights party, at least know the skin color of what you're going to before you like do blackface and put on a turban. Like, to me, that was like even more insulting than anything else. But
No, the COVID
aside from
lockdowns
that,
and mandating the vaccines and destroying families and destroying
yeah, well,
family and marriages and on and on and on. But I think Sin has
yeah.
his hand raised. I feel bad, so I'm
Well,
gonna
well, you
go
know
on
what?
mute.
Something that you might not know about me, Stealth, is that do you know that I share the same district as Pierre?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, he's the MP. He's the MP for Carleton. I'm the MPP for Carleton. I've known Pierre since 2015. So, the things that Pierre talks about Iran, guess who he speaks with about that? I've known him
That's
since
how it needs to be.
2015.
Yeah, you guys have to
So,
win. You have to have a conservative leadership there, and you have
I
to,
I have I have a lot of faith in Pierre. I support Pierre. Like, if he can't be Justin Trudeau, I don't know who can. Like, Pierre is pragmatic. People are trying to, defame him and say that he's like all these, like trying to make him seem like he's this like far right person. And like, I've known him since 2015. Pierre gave me advice about how to be a politician before I was even elected. Like, I'm an Iranian immigrant woman, and I'm sitting there. Pierre literally made me an espresso in 2015, sat down with me, and gave me advice on how to be a politician and how to get elected. So don't tell me that Pierre is like racist or anti-immigrant or whatever, because he gave me advice. Pierre doesn't care about any of that. Pierre is so pragmatic. Like, all he cares about is Canada and the economy. And that's why, like, I support him. And we message on WhatsApp all the time. And he's such a good guy, and I wish him all the best. And I mean, I have high hopes for the next federal election. I know who I'm voting for. I don't want to put it out there, but I know who I'm personally voting for.
Awesome, awesome. Let's get to these hands, guys. We've been. I do got to leave in the next 30 minutes, so let's get some of these hands, and we'll get final remarks, and then we're gonna end this space because I got a doctor's appointment in the morning, so real life stuff happens. But Stealth, I appreciate you coming in and with the questions. Wonderful space, everybody. All right, so let's get to these hands. I'm gonna go to Sin City, then we'll go to Sean and the rest of these hands. And I see somebody else trying to come up. Then that's gonna be it. Sin City, please go ahead, my friend.
Hey, thanks so much. I'm always hesitant, especially when there are other Iranians in the space to even speak, because I enjoy coming to these spaces to learn. Let me say just first, I have way more to learn about Iran, but for the better part of 2 months, I have been solely focused on the IRGC. Partly because I was embarrassed, having spent so much time in Central and South America, that their influence somewhat escaped my radar. But over the past 2 months, I beat up my professional network, did a lot of traveling, and look, this is an interesting beast in a lot of different ways. In many ways, it's very informative to follow their genesis through Venezuela and Argentina in the 70s and 80s, because you'll see a lot of familiarity there with Western societies. But more precisely, it was when they essentially married what the Western world refers to as the cartels, right? Is the drug and narco influences down south. They sort of married and created a criminal model that law enforcement had never seen before. So, uh, as opposed to cartels, right, in the past, where law enforcement employed like what we would call the kingpin strategy, right? You knock out the big dog and the rest sort of fall in line. The IRGC mixed with the cartel, and through territorial control, they establish a system of decentralized adaptive systems in territories. Now, why is that important? Well, because if you know anything about how networks work, is like fake experts talk about strategies, professionals talk about logistics, right? And the key to getting these networks to work, or what we're referring to as like adaptive agents. Now, these are like formal civil society. They normally have typical jobs, but their primary job is to participate in civil society to legitimize or facilitate illicit behavior or mainstream illicit behavior. Now, in the West, and this is why we're inexplicably, or those of us who understand, just how nefarious this group is, we don't understand why our political apparatus seems unwilling to deal with it. Many of them are under the influence of things that we just don't really realize. They got very, very sophisticated. If you look at the Khomeini network in particular, right, it wasn't so much what they were doing. It was that they had so many prosecutors and so many of the systems, right, that would normally enforce influence and inform governance, totally captured, and quite intentionally, right? So it's not just the big label organizations that they don't even hide their association with the IRGC. It's going to come from college institutions, seemingly unaffiliated special interest groups, et cetera, et cetera. Territorial control and logistics played out in the Western world looks very much like NGOs. Okay, and NGOs and money are actually have a massive influence on our governance structures, with many of those people having no idea that they're actually being influenced in that way. In fact, quite to the contrary, many of these people will approach with quite an opposite goal. This is such a sophisticated and hybrid mechanism that quite literally my friends of mine that I used to do counter narcotics work with, there's entire like think tanks of examining this new model, because it's one part counterterrorism, one part sort of good old fashioned criminal narcotics trafficking, and 1 part high-end intelligence work. And all 3 of these combined make the deployment of counterterrorism law enforcement not particularly applicable, but similarly, sanctions aren't going to necessarily work. The only real mechanism or like where they're landing right now is finding the nodes, and these nodes are the adaptive agents, and these are the hardest people to find, that they're most crucial, right? Because they're going to be hiding in plain sight, and some of them will have no idea who they're acting on behalf of, right? But so I obviously support labeling the IRGC as a terrorist organization. That will have some effect. But I would argue that their filtering mechanisms, much of which they learned through their experience in Venezuela, and then their marriage with parts of Bolivia and the Sinaloa cartel, are so sophisticated. They are still going to be able to move money, power, and influence in a significant way. I'm obviously in support of it, but law enforcement is somewhat perplexed by this, and I don't think many of them know what they're looking for. Because I can tell you that the people battling it in South America right now are confused, and I'm talking about highly skilled professionals with backgrounds in military and counterintelligence, and this is it's an uphill battle. So the confusion to some degree is understandable when you understand a little bit more about how they operate, and the influence is much more subtle and much more impactful. They understand our societies, Western societies, far better than we give them credit for. That's all I want to say.
I just want to quickly add to Sin City's comment about South America. Iran is expanding into South America, and Venezuela, being in the spot that it is opening its doors. And this is where we're seeing a massive immigration from originating from Venezuela. And you see now we're seeing Middle Eastern people knocking on the door of the southern border into U.S. and Africans, and this is where it's coming from. And earlier in the year, actually not earlier, just about 4 or 5 months ago, Iran and Venezuela signed 19 different agreements of cooperation, which is absolutely insane. And somehow both of them are playing Biden, since Biden is trying to normalize relationship with Iran for some reason, with the regime, and Venezuela, and both of them played them earlier this year.
And they just expanded to network or drone and technology sharing with Bolivia, Nicaragua, and Ecuador. So they clearly have ambitions of grabbing the global south, and that they already got deep roots. This is not new. They've been there since the 70s. The cases are quite mind-boggling in some ways. But with that, I'll shut up. But I shared your frustration with I was so confused of why people were just seemingly unclear on this. But when you understand the incentives that the decision makers are under, and that many of them have no idea where the influence is actually coming from, it becomes more understandable. Not excusable, but it starts to make a little more sense, at least to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. Can't agree more. All right, let's go to let's see, who do we got here left? We got 1, 2. I want to go to Valkyrie, because Valkyrie, you've been very patient, and then we'll go to the rest of these hands. Valkyrie, please go ahead. Valkyrie, can you hear me? Yep.
Sorry, my mic was off. Am I audible? Is my mic really
Yeah,
good?
go for it.
Okay. I want to emphasize a point that Kirk touched upon slightly when it comes to Jordan. I feel like adding insight from Jordan, since I'm in Jordan, is kind of important when it comes to the whole ordeal. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood is a proxy of Iran, from what I understand. The Islamic regime, I mean, right? The thing is, they're kind of the political spearhead of the Islamic regime here in the Middle East. They pretty much destroyed the stability of any politics in the Middle East, especially in my own country. One of the few important things to note about how they dabble in all these things, when it comes to things like LGBT rights. Now, if you look it up in Jordan, it will say it's legal for same-sex attraction. That is extremely, extremely deceptive. Secret services here hunt us down because of the Muslim Brotherhood. They are like moles inside the law. Now, here's the thing. I'm quite pessimistic for a reason when it comes to the Muslim Brotherhood and the future of my country, because I don't know how this will end. I don't know how the Islamic regime, if it stops existing, how it will affect the Muslim Brotherhood's iron grip on the politics here. I don't know if you can answer this, Alex or Goldie. I don't know who either of you has more insight on the Muslim Brotherhood. But
Are you in Jordan, Habibi?
yes, I am in Jordan. So to speak, it's like they've been so entrenched into the politics that they've been ruining so many things and pushing more radical Islamism in our politics, especially through Sharia law. How would this end if the Islamic regime has been dismantled? What would the effect be on the Muslim Brotherhood in Jordan or in the Middle East? I don't know who can answer this question, but please do.
So I'm a Canadian politician, so I can't really speak to Middle Eastern politics. But I mean, I'm aware of the Muslim Brotherhood, but I think that question is probably one for Jordanian politicians, maybe, because I mean, my focus really in Canada is to ensure that Islamofascist ideology does not make its way into Canada. And I'm sure anyone who's American probably has the same sort of um, you know, goal as me. So I wish I could answer your question, but I really can't because I don't know enough about Jordanian politics. But I know that like Iranians in the Iranian diaspora, we are fighting to get rid of the terrorist Islamic regime in Iran. What effect that's going to have on the rest of the Middle East, I think that just depends on how much influence the terror proxies of the Islamic regime have in the Middle East, whether it's Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis or ISIS or the Taliban. So, I mean, I wish I could give you a better answer, but that's really all I can say on that.
I can give it a 2-minute answer if you want.
Please go ahead, because there's little talk about how the Muslim Brotherhood, especially in Jordan, is like anything about it. So please go ahead.
The Muslim Brotherhood is not just in Jordan, but it's extremely powerful around the world. I mean, that's when we've seen in the last couple of days here with the education to university presidents here in the U.S. that can't condemn genocide on Jewish people. This is where the money is coming from. What the Muslim Brotherhood, which is the roots are from Iran, the Iranian regime understood in the West that it can buy almost anything with money. And this is one of the big problems here. And the Muslim Brotherhood is tried to overthrow and disturb shit in Egypt, which is one of the reasons Egypt will not open the borders to Hamas, to Palestinians, because they know how they've been radicalized by Hamas. And this is one of the reasons why the Egyptian leadership has said they'll defend the border and will sacrifice as many people as needed, and they move tanks to the Rafah border. And the issue in Jordan is not as, Jordan and Israel and Jordan in general has had a really good relationship, yet there is an actual peace agreement. And I've been to Jordan many times. I love Petra more than one of my favorite places. But one of the Jordanian Brotherhood, which is as pretty much as the Muslim Brotherhood Society, was founded in 1945. So it's a very, very old organization there. But it's not as radical or radically as effective within Jordan, because of the monarch situation. And so it's been really good at holding it at bay. And one of the benefits of how it's been doing and how it's been moving along in that area is because the Jordanian government has started to establish relationships, start producing economic activity for its people. And this is one of the biggest factors combating this radicalization of this Islamist world that comes from the Islamic regime, in Iran into Muslim Brotherhood is it gives when you give people an opportunity and to move in progress, they don't choose something that tells them to, create chaos in your own neighborhood, strap a bomb to yourself. And I don't really see in Jordan much moving to the radicalization. I think once Hamas falls, and this is one of the reasons why all the Arab nations around, all the governments, and all want Hamas to fall, is because it's a huge blow to Iran, and it will start dominoing the rest of the Iranian regime holds in the area, and with the hopes they'll slowly disappear. Because the other option is a full war with the Iranian regime, getting many countries would be involved, and this is the second option there.
Yeah.
That's actually very informative, so thank you, because I've barely got any answer on this topic. That's all. Thank you, Alex.
I appreciate you, Valkyrie. Thank you, Kirk. Very informative as always. This is why we do these spaces, ladies and gentlemen, and all that. Exactly. Iconoclast, go ahead. I was just going to
Thanks,
go to you.
Alex. Good to be here. Nice to meet you, Goldie. I was at actually a meeting this afternoon with Salman and my friend Olga, who knows you as well. It was for Human Rights Day, and it was good. There was Persians and Jews and Cubans and other people. It was a wonderful gathering, actually. I thought you
I
might have
was, you
been
know
there.
what? I was actually supposed to be there,
Right.
and I felt terrible for having to cancel last minute because I had a local Christmas parade in my riding in Carleton in Ottawa, and the schedule changed sort of last minute.
Well, you
So,
can't be everywhere.
well, I can't be everywhere, but I also have to, as a politician, I do have to put my local constituency first because they're the
Yes.
people that vote for me, and the Christmas parades are really important, and I never miss them.
You
So,
got to keep your
I
job
love
to keep doing
I
what you're
love
doing.
going. You know what? And I love going to the Christmas parades. I love seeing all the people, in the community, and especially in Metcalf. It's such a fantastic community. Just like great, great people. I love Metcalf. Such a great community. So, yeah. So I felt terrible because I was supposed to be at Salman's event, but I did promise Salman. I was like, I'm so sorry I can't be here, but we will reschedule something for the middle of January.
Great,
So
because
just
actually,
yeah, just hold on because we're going to reschedule something, but I did feel terrible for not being there at the event and missing everyone.
no worries. You got to keep your job to keep doing what you're doing, which is great work. Actually, I was hoping to meet you there. I had some ideas I wanted to share with you. Um, so as far as the battle that we're involved in, to piggyback on the conversation that was just had between Kirk and Valkyrie, so the contemporary Middle East is essentially divided between two transnational religious organizations. One is the Muslim Brotherhood, which is actually centered in Egypt with tentacles all over the world. And the other is the Velayat Fari, which is in Iran. And the reason I'm using that term is because that is the proper title for the regime of Iran, Velayat Fari. That is the term we all use as Iranians when we talk about them. We don't use it when we're talking in English to English speakers because they don't understand the word. But it is
Well, so
important.
so so my literal translation for Velayat Faqih in English is Islamofascist.
Good. No, that's
Right.
that's
And
that's
that's why I
that's
keep on saying Islamofascist unapologetically. And whenever someone's like, that's a made up term, that doesn't mean anything. I'm like, really? Okay, here's the Wikipedia article. This Islamofascist means Velayat Faqih. And then people read that and they're like, okay, maybe she's not as crazy as she sounds.
yeah, exactly. Terminology matters. The Marxist Islamist connection uses terminology like instead of calling them jihadis, they call themselves the resistance. And suddenly that confuses the Western mind. They don't know how to look deeper into them or what to do with them. But we got to really use the proper terms when we're talking about Islamism. Um, I think it's very effective to lay bare the dark theological and eschatological beliefs that are leading the foreign policy of governments like Velayat Fari. That, for instance, I'm just looking at Article 5 of the Constitution of Iran. I have it up on the screen here, and it says during the occultation of the 12th Imam, the ummah must be led by a just and pious, courageous resource faqih. That's where it comes from. Velayat faqih. It's defined in Article 5. So the supreme leader of Iran sees himself as the representative of the 12th Imam. In the context of Shiism, where they believe in the succession of prophethood, the prophethood has passed from Muhammad essentially to him. So he has the authority of God. And as part of this theology that's embedded in the Constitution that leads to the foreign policy of the country, the destruction of the State of Israel is very much a doctrine of religion and politics. And when I look at the various stages of the Islamic Republic throughout the past 45 years, they have had different renditions of themselves. But today, they have, since Trump withdrew from the JCPOA and a few other changes that happened internally inside of Iran, I find that they have really gravitated towards these foundational ideas. The IRGC, for instance, what does that really mean to a Westerner? I know who they are from the very foundation of the government. I know who the IRGC is. I know their entire story. I know what they represent. I know, what their job is. When they came back from the Iran-Iraq war and Rafsanjani passed the law that allowed them to start corporations, Jahad Sazandagi, I remember that. I remember him, passing that law. So I understand who they are. But to the Westerners, it just sounds like some letters, IRGC, terrorists. What does that really mean? So I think it's important to open the belief system and to reveal to the world how dark and dangerous the beliefs of these transnational religious organizations that control the resources of states. Now, what are the states that matter in the Middle East? Well, there's Turkey under Erdogan, who's an Islamist. He's a member of the Muslim Brotherhood, and he has his own, Ottoman Caliphate, fantasies. And there's enough people in Turkey that support it. There could be an alignment there. There is Qatar, and the fact that the Emir of Qatar preaches essentially the caliphate to 500 million listeners in Arabic every night through his private broadcasting network, Al Jazeera Arabic. Then Hamas has an office in Qatar, but so does the Taliban. And the new Taliban in Afghanistan is very different from the old Taliban. The old Taliban was Salafi, associated with Arabs, with Saudi Arabia. The new Taliban is Muslim Brotherhood, like Hamas. They're part of the same organization. Hamas is the militant branch of the Muslim Brotherhood, and it's their Palestinian branch. So Taliban also has an office in Qatar. Now, what I'm seeing happening since this October 7th war began, what I'm seeing is that they are actually building political alliances and fortifying the connection that already exists, going back to Khomeini, between the Velayat Fari and the Ikhwan al-Muslimin, the Muslim Brotherhood, the alliance with Turkey, the alliance with Afghanistan. Since the Taliban have taken over Afghanistan, it's become a hotbed of Islamic groups. There's lots of madrasas there now that teach the overthrow of governments. They literally are teaching these groups how to overthrow governments and establish caliphates. You look at Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan. These have become, and the Chechens as well. So the Muslim Brotherhood has many branches all over the place, and their connection with the regime of Iran, the Velayat Fari, with the backing of Russia, the industrial kind of patron of that bloc, because they have their own, need to negotiate with the West over Ukraine, over sanctions. That's what they do. They use the Middle East as a negotiation chip to negotiate what they need with industrial first world powers, quote unquote. And then when they get what they want, they kind of let go. So that's a very dangerous alliance forming. And to really expose this to the Western mind, that there are some very dark religious beliefs, apocalyptic beliefs. The supreme leader of Iran is by the Constitution, presenting himself as the representative of God, and he's placing the destruction of the state of Israel as one of his religious duties, and he has a private army called the Guardians of the Republic, which is a better translation for them, because they are guarding this kind of manifestation of these clerics, victory, this religious victory of the clerics. And they have their own private army, and they're building alliances in the Middle East, destroy the state of Israel, bring about the end of days. There is the bring about the Mahdi. These are not crazy side little ideas that just a few of them have. These are central policies of the government. This is what the people in the parliament of Iran believe in, every single one of them. These are central tenets of the foreign policy of the nation. So the fact that the secular West cannot have a religious dialogue in the public square and open up the door to bringing these ideas to the forefront. Because if everyone knew this in the whole world, no one would sign a JCPOA or any deal with these guys, because everyone would understand, the people of the world would understand and put pressure on their politicians that this is not a normal government. We're dealing with a theocracy. We're dealing with clerics that are the president and supreme leader and judges and everything else in that government. It's run by priests. And so is, Turkey. They were a suit of the tie. But if you look at the reforms of Erdogan and all the referendums he's had to bring the parliament, to replace the judiciary by the parliament and Islamicize the country. Remember, when he first came to power, the army took him out after 6 months, and he had to make a comeback and put the reforms in very slowly. But to really reveal to the West what these guys stand for, I think would rally the nations of the world, the people of the world, against the dark ideology that they're proposing in the Assembly of Nations in this global world. Their religion is really what has to be exposed in the public square, and how it translates to foreign policy. That's my opinion. What do you
What
think,
what
Goldie?
what they've done really well is they exported this Islamist religion into imams funded by Muslim Brotherhood into the Western world. So there's people
Yes.
being radicalized everywhere here, everywhere in the Western world. And this is why we're seeing them chanting echoing the same language that we see the Iranian regime is, which is really basically a dictatorship with using religion as an excuse.
And
Well,
one of the things they do really well is colloquially hide their agenda. As you said, Icon, the you said yourself that it's a religious. I call it a religious fascism, and I think that's been said.
Well, that's why I use the term Islamofascism, because they're not Muslim. We have so many Middle Eastern countries. I mean, Faisal was on here earlier, Alex, and he's Saudi Arabian, and Saudi Arabia is the birthplace of Islam. And he was speaking out against the Islamic regime because there are so many Middle Eastern Arabic countries who view the Islamic regime in Iran as an enemy, because they have taken, unfortunately, they have taken Islam and they have um, weaponized it, and they have turned it into this Islamofascist dictatorship. And before I continue, I just want to say to every single Iranian listening right now, I'm going to say a few things in Farsi. So first of all, مرگ بر جمهوری اسلامی، مرگ بر ولایت فقیه و گوه سگم حلالتر از خامنه ایه. خاک تو سر خامنه ای. So just want to put it out there, first of all. Anyone else who's listening, you can ask an Iranian for the translation of what I just said, because it's probably very politically incorrect, but I said it in Farsi. So having said that, you're absolutely right, Iconoclast. Like, there is a very um, big challenge that we have with the importation of Islamofascist ideology in the West. And they're doing this through their multi-billion-dollar terrorist propaganda network. I mean, the Islamic regime in Iran has literally a ministry dedicated to the propagation of their terrorist ideology, and they call it the cyber army network, and they spend billions of dollars on this every year. And we're talking about, not just bots, but we're talking about like the Quds News Network. We're talking about their collaboration with Qatar in the form of Al Jazeera, and not just Al Jazeera, but AJ Plus. AJ Plus is the big problem. AJ Plus is the main account that has been influencing the younger generation on TikTok. And AJ Plus is a huge threat. And again, that's basically a mouthpiece for Qatari foreign intelligence. So if you want to talk about foreign interference, people are focusing on the CCP. Meanwhile, the Islamic regime in Iran and Qatar have been quietly influencing the youth in Western societies, in Western democracies, through Al Jazeera and AJ Plus. And not just the Quds News Network, there's others. Like, we have pro-Islamic regime lobby groups. We have NIAC, we have journalists, we have other news organizations. And to this day, like, it still blows my mind. And I have been speaking about this for years. And it still horrifies me that there are Canadian journalists who are literally retweeting Quds News Network. They're literally retweeting Al Jazeera. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, buddy, did you become like like did you become an overnight expert on the Middle East after October 7? Like, really? All of a sudden October 7 happens and now you think you're like a Middle Eastern expert? Like, stop retweeting Quds News Network, because you just lost all legitimacy. And it's actually kind of a big deal for a politician to call out journalists, right? Because in Western democracies and Western societies, there's a separation and there's freedom of press. And I've never, ever called out journalists on anything. Even when they attack me, I don't call them out, because at the end of the day, I believe in the freedom of press. I mean, this is not Iran, this is Canada, right? Journalists can say whatever they want to say. But as an Iranian, I cross the line. Sorry, I don't cross the line, but the line for me, like, I draw the line at when these certain journalists start retweeting propaganda from the Islamic regime in Iran. At that point, I will unapologetically call them out. And if they want to attack me, they're more than welcome to. But I'm sorry, if you're like some random Canadian journalist and you're like retweeting Al Jazeera or the Quds News Network, I will come after you, because that just shows to me that you know absolutely nothing about what's going on and you understand zero context, and you're basically just being a mouthpiece for the Islamic regime in Iran and Qatar. So there you go.
Yeah, and one of the Canadian journalists decided to attack our friend Elika, but I'm not going to say who it is. You just can connect the dots there. So it's kind of funny how you just said that. It's
Yeah, we know. We know.
exactly. All right, let's get these hands, and we're going to wrap this space up fairly soon, guys. Thank you for everything. You guys have been amazing. I see Chelsea's in the audience. Hello. Let's go ahead and get to these hands. I want to get to Hope, because Hope, you've been patiently waiting, and then we'll go to Sean, CGE, and then Monarchist, and then, and Jonas, too. So we're going to wrap this up soon. Hope, go ahead.
Hi, Alex, and your wonderful co-host Sarah, the Shaw's man, and Goldie. It's such an honor to be in space with you and hear you. You're just wonderful and warm my heart, and I just love how you said "Magbar velayat faqih, Magbar Khamenei," and the
I
other
love
one.
you too, Hope. I've been following you. Your tweets are
I
amazing.
noticed.
Like, you
Oh,
inspire
thank
me.
you. Thank you so much. You inspire me, and you just, yeah. So thank you so much for everything you do. I actually just posted some of the flyers that we've made in Mass Act Army. And it's in the nest, but I also tweeted it again and I pinned it to my profile because there's 4 flyers that are really, really important. And Alex, since you have a lot of people here in this space, I'm just going to take a moment and talk about them very quickly, because we need all of our allies' help. We have Israeli Americans here in space. We have Jewish Americans. We have a lot of just Americans, and we need all of your help because we are trying to change the landscape of our Congress. We are trying to be the anti-NIAC, to say no more Islamic Republic agents running and influencing our politicians here in the United States. We are putting an end to it, and it starts with the MASA Act. So the flyers that I have attached to that tweet, there's actually 4 of them. One of them is our efforts in calling Chairman Cardin, who's the chairman of Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And the reason why we're calling him and, tweeting about him or trying to get meetings, and this is why I need everyone's help, please. We need all of your help. Anyone who's in the United States can help this effort, which is basically grassroots activism. And Goldie, you spoke earlier about how you are representing your people in Ottawa in Canada. And that's what we need to do as grassroots, as just regular Americans calling our politicians and requesting these things. So one is to call Chairman Cardin, and ask him to mark up 3 pieces of legislation that's already passed in the House of Representatives. And again, we need hands-on. We just need a lot of people to call and make appointments and email. So that's the MASA Act that's already passed in the House. We need help in the Senate with that, with regard to calling our senators. The other one is the SHIPS Act, which is very important. It's going to sanction the people that are buying the Iranian oil, or the regime's oil, which they're stealing from the Iranian people. And that's going to put a chokehold on the regime and on their ability to gain the money, which they're funding Hamas, Hezbollah, and the rest of them with. And of course, to also subdue, oppress, rape, kill the innocent Iranians. So that's one. So it's a MASA Act, the SHIPS Act, and then the other one is the No Funds for Iranian Terrorism Act, and that's going to refreeze the $6 billion and the $10 billion that was released, unfortunately, by the current administration in office. So I hope those help. I also have the phone numbers for the senators we're reaching out to, and one of those, it's actually the top one on the left. If you click on it, there's a picture of the U.S. flag and then the Iranian lion and sun flag right up on top, and it has all of these senators' phone numbers. And of course, the main one is the Senate Foreign Relations Office. That phone number is there. And then the other one is Senator Cardin's office. And I hope that is helpful. You guys will certainly help our efforts if everyone in the United States helps us just being an activist here, as on a grassroots level. And thank you so much for giving me this ability to speak, Alex.
For your hard work. Thank you. It's my pleasure. Everything you do is wonderful. I just, it can't go unnoticed that the MASA Act Army, the one that I am, honorably affiliated and part of, without you, Hope, and Sarah and Emily and Nick, who's not here, but Josh Khalikhalia, without what you ladies and everybody else do in this community, I don't think we would get this kind of platform. So, it needs to be said and addressed. So thank you for dedicating your time and energy. And I hope anyone who is not following Hope, please do follow her and Sarah, Emily, Nick, and the rooms they usually have on Sunday nights. If you are interested in seeing victory in the U.S. legislatively, please do support the MASA Act and so many other bills that are being passed through Congress right now. We just had a new Speaker of the House. So, the clusterfuck that happened with that, excuse my language, but now we have a Speaker of the House who is very pro-Israel. So we'll see what happens, but the Senate needs to pass, and then that will be a victory for all Iranian Americans, and hopefully, for Canada, for the UK, they can prescribe the IRGC as a terrorist organization, and they can get similar legislation like the MASA Act. That would be a recurring theme. So we can do this. So with that being said, though, we're going to get to the last remaining hands. And I do see somebody who did come up because they were originally here, but they had to leave. So I'm going to let you up anyway. So thank you, Hope June. Let's go to Sean, and then we'll go to the Monarchist, and then CG, and then Tino. So Sean, please go ahead. Oh, and Jonas, I'm sorry.
So I'm going to keep it short, but I have 2 questions for Goldie. One is related to the education system, which specifically the international students. So we know in international students, they don't get a loan. and so they have to have the funding in order to be able to get the visas. However, studying in Canada and meeting kind of the Iranian community, student community within the university that I went, which was one of the most conservative, you could say, universities in University of Calgary, which you could argue that it is one of the most conservative cities. But it was very clear when I was introduced to them that they were very much pro-regime, and so I was very shocked. And but then I started since September, I started kind of looking into this, and what I noticed from also people that Iranians that I know and other international students that have come from Iran, that it is extremely easy to specifically forging documents. Like in Iran, for international students, it is easier to forge the documents than get the actual documents. It costs less than $1,000, and most of these international students, they are here with basically the fake documents claiming that they own X number of assets. Now, in terms of the tuitions, just to remind everyone that a tuition, in order to pay for, let's say, someone's paying for their kids' tuition, it can be equivalent of a salary of 2 doctors just for the tuition, not including the living cost. So we're talking about, yes, there are wealthy Iranians, but we're talking about if all of the international students that are coming, they are within not just the higher class, but more of the the ultra rich, then which are we know who they are. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but then when you look at how the education system has been very much influenced by the Islamic Republic, it is very easy from like one person that I specifically know that has come, that has been spreading regime propaganda. That's from the day that he landed in Canada just a few months ago. I know his family cannot afford the tuition, and his family is not associated with IRGC nor Besige, but they're in the banking industry. Well, just works. His father works at a bank. Now, how much of this would how big of a problem is this when it comes to the academia and the Islamic Republic's influence within academia? Because it's very easy to be able to for the Islamic Republic to give a promotion to someone who wants their kid to be to go to come to Canada. And my second question would be, how can we help you specifically, or even the Conservative Party, uh, for both Iranians and non-Iranians, Canadians and people also that are not in Canada, in order to not just raise awareness, but to be, what can we do to better help you to be who you are, basically, to be our voice? What are some of the things that you would need the most from us, that can help you? Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, so much for the kind words. I really appreciate that. And listen, your frustrations, I understand and I appreciate. And when you're speaking about the, ultra rich, I know exactly who you're speaking about. And I just shared a tweet that I made on October 13 about the York University Graduate Student Association, which was one of the three unions, student unions at York University, who signed that very anti Semitic letter about what happened on October 7 and, against the people of Israel and the genocidal massacre. And, there was a big backlash, and the university unions, I guess student unions, decided to not back down. And now my understanding is York University is in the process of getting rid of their status as student unions. I mean, I don't know what's going on with that, but one of those student unions was UGZIA, which is the York University Graduate Student Association. And if you look at my tweet, This wasn't even me. This was literally Iranian Canadian York University students, undergraduate students who, most of them have lived here their entire lives and grown up in Canada. And they looked into Yuxia and they realized they're all Iranian. And the majority of them probably don't even have Canadian citizenship. Like the guy who's the president of the York University Graduate Student Association has on his profile that he has like a degree in clowning from Tehran. Take that in for a moment. Take that in, please. Please take that in. The
Did you
guy
say clowning?
clowning. That's on his. That was on his profile. It might have been deleted now because people were going after them. But he had a degree in clowning, being a clown. That was his degree. And in my head, I'm thinking, and this goes back to what Sean was saying, right? Like, if you have a degree in clowning, and I have an undergrad in drama. Like, I love I love the theater, I love the arts, I love plays, I love all of that, and I have a minor in that, and I loved being a stage manager. But I'm sorry, if you have a degree in clowning in Iran, how the heck can you afford to come to Canada as an international student and pay those insane fees on top of the cost of living and everything else? Right? So that goes back to Sean's point. And in fact, if you look at all the other executive members of the York University Graduate Student Association, not only are they all Iranian, I could probably guarantee you that like the majority of them aren't even Canadian. They're international students. So you have international students from Iran who have come here with these random degrees in clowning or whatever else with money that, we all know where it comes from. It comes from the Islamic regime. They're coming here and they've somehow taken over Canadian student associations and they're not even Canadian. And they're putting out this anti-Semitic propaganda. We have a serious problem in Canada. This is why Iranian Canadians have been sounding the alarm for years. This is why Iranian Canadians have been saying that Canada has become a safe haven for the terrorist and illegitimate Islamic regime in Iran, because we are seeing it every day, every day. And no one has taken us seriously until now, when it seems like the writing is on the wall, right? Like there's like the undergraduate Iranian students at York University have reached out to me because they are so horrified by what Yuxia did, that they literally, the Iranian Canadian York University students started a petition to get Yuxia like kicked out or decertified as a union or whatever, because there are over 400,000 Iranian Canadians in Canada,
And
and the vast majority of us are pro democracy. Unfortunately, there is a small minority, I would say, maybe up to, I hate to say it, maybe up to 5% that are pro Islamic regime. And the reason that they're here is because of, their connections or money or whatever the case might be. And they also know how to abuse the system. They know how to get into these positions of power. But it's come to a point where Iranian Canadians are done with it. We're just fed up. We're done. We're sick of it. And we're going to call them out. And that's why you're seeing this. But again, the president of the York University Graduate Student Association has a degree in clowning from Tehran. And he is an international student at York University. Please tell me, how is that even possible? Because I don't even understand that.
And not to mention that the largest Canadian student Telegram channel it is literally by members of Basij who consistently forward from IRGC channels, news, and just announcements from the Islamic Republic. We're talking about it has 28,000 members, but I'm sure it's not 28,000 people. But it just shows you that even when it comes to feeding information, and there are plenty, and this is what I focus on, there are plenty of private groups that Basiji groups, as well as many of them operating in the university mosques.
You're absolutely right. And the challenge we have is that when we try to speak out against it and like warn people, the same people who are like promoting this Islamofascist ideology, the same people who are supporting the Islamic regime in Iran will come out and be like, my freedom of speech, and like they'll literally abuse the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms to attack us for speaking out against them. And this is a challenge that we're facing because they are abusing Canadian democratic values for their own benefit because they know that they can get away with this in Canada. But if we went to Iran and we spoke out against the Islamic regime, we would be dead within a week. And that's the double standard that people don't realize. That's a double standard. If we went to Iran, right, like we could not have this conversation in Iran. I literally cannot go back to Iran. If I stepped foot in Iran tomorrow, I would be arrested, taken to jail, tortured, raped, and executed within a week. And that's just the reality. But they come here and they abuse the freedom and values that we have in Western democratic societies and use it against us. And they use it to try to silence us. And that's just very frustrating.
But I have
Absolutely.
sorry, I know Alex, you have to go, but I gotta read this because this is almost like so funny. I just can't believe it. So this is the Alirizera from the UGSIT, from the York student executive team, the president, the clowning guy, or whatever it is. They, them, so I'm not sure how to relate to that. Primarily through performance, film, and clowning, Ali Riza explores underlying structures of marginalization and oppression in their scholarship. What the fuck are we talking about here? Can someone explain me?
I can't. I don't know. That's why I'm like, this guy has a degree in clowning. Like in Farsi, it's like dalrake. Like he's a dalrak, I guess. I don't know. Like who has I'm sorry. If I said to my dad and Iranians in like Western countries, a little bit of a joke and a little bit of funny story, but like, Iranians who immigrate here, there's like a running joke within our culture. It's like you have 3 or 4 options. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, or live on the street. And, it's not actually true, but it's kind of a joke because it's like, we come here and, we want to like, succeed and excel in education. I guarantee you, if I went to my Bubba, and I'm a 38-year-old politician. If I went to my Bubba and I was like, Bubba, can I take a degree in clowning? He would be like, you want to be clown? I make you clown. You don't need degree for that. Why should I spend money to make you clown? I make you dalgag. So I don't know where this clowning degree comes from, but it's like it blows my mind. I didn't even know such a thing existed. I'm just gonna put it out there because that just like it's crazy.
Well, you don't even need a degree because sometimes we're all dialects in here. So, it's.
Absolutely insane.
Go ahead, Shazma. You had your own mic.
Yep. I was just gonna say, just thank you, Goldie, so much for being here today. And I just wanted to say that we've had a lot of great discussion, a lot of great speakers. Sorry for throwing in those sound effects; were funny, but that's that was the only reaction I could muster for clowning students somehow having these privileged
You
positions.
you probably thought I was like exaggerating or joking, which is why you probably looked it up. Which you know what? I'm kind of glad you did look it up because when I saw it, like I was amazed. I was like, how is this even possible? Like, is this real life right now? And I guarantee you a lot of Iranians were looking at this like who can he, like, which university provides a degree in clowning? Can someone, is there a single university in the world that provides a degree in clowning? Please, please.
Yeah, it's
At least this is the first time I've seen pronouns legit, like when she or he, whatever it is, writes they them. I get it now in this case.
yeah, it's Krusty the Clown University, sponsored by The Simpsons. That's where the Clown University.
No, Krusty was good. There was the evil one. It was like Bob or something.
Yeah.
Bob the
Yeah,
sidekick.
yeah, Sideshow Bob.
Yeah, side. Yeah, he has a degree in Sideshow Bob because Sideshow Bob was the evil one.
Yeah, Ghameri is the sideshow lord. There you go. So even though I call Ghameri Waldo, where's Waldo? So Waldo is here. So anyways, with the comic relief, let's get to the final three hands. Let's go to CGE. CG, you've been very patient. Thank you for. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah. I quite enjoy Iranian trader space and Goldie, and you're really a remarkable Iranian Canadian. Yeah, and yes, um, I'm not Iranian. I'm also not Jewish, but I do pay attention to the Iranian politics, and I can say that the Iranian protest has personally inspired me a lot. And we have talked about like the Iranian community was under attack, but actually, sadly, this is not the first time that the Iranian community got attacked, because last year, which is long before the October 7th attack on Israel, and I saw with my own eyes that there are Iranian protesters. They are showing solidarity with the protester in their country got attacked in my city, which is in a city in North England. You know, I mean, nothing serious happened, but indeed it's quite serious. I mean, at least the police there just stopped them. Yeah, so. Because the city where I live, there are like around 25% of the population are Muslim immigrants, and there's those people that just fail to integrate into the British society, uh, which is quite sad. And they indeed hold that kind of hostile attitude toward maybe the Iranian pro-democracy protest. Yeah, that is very sad fact. Because me myself is also that kind of people from an authoritarian nation. I was actually born in China, but I live in the UK as a student, and I oppose the Chinese Communist Party, which is the main sponsor of the Iranian, the Islamic regime in Iran. I think maybe everyone knows about that. And in terms of like Canada, because I have relatives living in Canada, so I think I basically know about Canada because I've never been to Canada, but I know about that. Yes, Canada indeed is a safe haven for many authoritarian regimes, including the Islamic regime as well as the CCP, especially in Vancouver or Toronto. Yeah, in terms of the international students, yes, I am an international student in the UK, but I know exactly, like, for example, I don't know about what applies to Iran because I don't really know many Iranian people. But for the Chinese, especially in UK, Canada, maybe Goldie has ever seen that kind of Chinese students driving Ferraris, Lamborghinis in Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal. Yes, those people, they are CCP party members here doing money laundering and also doing propaganda for the CCP. I think the same applies for the degree with clowning guy. I think these are same kind of person. So I hope like there should be that kind of proposals, maybe proposed by politicians in democratic nation to ban if you're like, for example, if your parents is a member of the CCP or a member of the Islamic dictatorship, then you should not be allowed to grant a visa because that is a safe way to protect the dissidents, regardless like where you come from. Because yes, I have seen like those people, those like Islamist attacking Iranian protesters in England, and I have also seen the Chinese CCP dogs. They are attacking dissidents, attacking Hong Kongers, attacking Tibetans in Canada, in UK, in the United States. Because in 2019 there are, like, I remember like in Ottawa there were Chinese students just throwing this kind of glass glass bottles towards Hong Kongers. I mean, in Ottawa, and nothing happened to them. They were not prosecuted. Just like you have talked about. So yeah, that is a serious question. I mean, and the last I want to say is that yes, I truly want to pay my highest respect to the Iranian protesters, and yes, I'm also like at a young age, maybe I'm 21 years old. I mean, I'm even younger than Mas Amini. If she's still alive. And when I'm just seeing all of those kind of clips about the way they executed like the young Iranian protesters, is just actually broke my heart. Because yes, I think maybe there's a same kind of feeling like if Iranians living abroad. Yes, we are living abroad. We are living in democratic countries, but we have still loved ones in those kind of authoritarian nations. So we care about them. So that's why we also hope that everyone in this planet can just live freely and with dignity and with the right that we have in a democratic nation. Because I have a girl like who I grew up with, we love each other. But I mean, sometimes, but I just cannot be really happy in a free country, because every time I just feel happy, I always think of her like she's still suffering in that country. I think this applies to the same as the Iranian people. So I mean, but I just believe one thing, that all kind of people, regardless your religion, regardless your nationality, but we pray together, we hold hands on hands together, and we pray for a day when all of those authoritarian regimes, regardless is the Islamic regime in Iran, the CCP, Russia, like the Hamas, Afghan, that what is that, Taliban, all of them all of them will gone, so that all of the people we can just live freely. And yeah, that's basically what I want to say. And I really hope one day that Iran can be a free country, so that I can just go and visit Iran. I hope, yeah, your crown prince will return to your country, and I hope that the flag with lion and sun will rise again, in Iran. Okay, so thanks so much. And also, I support Israel as well. So I'm Israel high and free Iran. And down with Khamenei, and down with CCP, down with Xi Jinping, down with Putin, down with all of them. Okay, thanks so much. And
Thank you, CG, so much for the kind words. Shishia, is that how it's said? Shishia? Thank
what?
you.
Yeah,
Uh,
share, 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 share.
shishia.
Share,
So
share. Okay, thanks
shishia.
so much. Thanks so much. Yeah.
So I haven't really spoken about this, but I have made a lot of friends within the Chinese Canadian community. And they have been reaching out to me, and they have been actually like raising funds for my reelection campaign. Um, because there are some very, very staunch pro democracy Chinese in Canada, and just like how Iranians have been speaking out against the Islamic regime in Iran, the Chinese Canadian community has been speaking out against the CCP. Like, we're on the same side here. And I just shared a video in the Twitter space, and this is specifically for you, CG. And this is not a video that I made, but I saw this video, and I didn't share it because the pro democracy Chinese Canadian in that video was very angry. And he may have said some things that are politically incorrect for a politician to repeat, but this was just his reaction, and the news reporters caught his reaction.
Yeah. Yes, I can understand, because basically speaking, all of the, because if you know about the Chinese propaganda, like
Exactly,
it's actually
and
very similar. Because
yeah,
every
and
time I'm seeing this kind of propaganda, it just reminds me of what I saw from the Chinese Weibo, which is a Chinese version of Twitter. But I feel very surprised. I'm seeing it on my campus in the UK. I just feel quite. I mean, just bizarre. That is my feeling. I think this applies the same to Canada.
100%. And it was really interesting for me because this pro democracy Chinese Canadian guy in the video, he had a flag of Hong Kong
Yeah, British Hong
prior
Kong. I
to.
think she's Hong Kong.
Yeah,
He's Hong
it
Konger.
was it was the pro democracy Hong Kong flag. So back when I guess it was still governed by England, or the British. And he immigrated to Canada because I guess his family had fought against the CCP, and so now he was in Canada because he supports democracy and all of that. And so for him, he was very insulted. But it was interesting. It was very interesting to me personally to see how so many people did not recognize the flag that he was holding, right? And that flag, like Canadian veterans will understand the flag because Canadian veterans fought, right? Like Canadian veterans were there. And so that's why there's such a big loyalty from pro democracy Chinese people. Um, and I think that just goes to show that, especially, within Canadians, there is so much unity, especially from immigrants, because the majority of immigrants, and I'm an immigrant myself, come to Canada or go to the States or, whichever European Western country, because we want to live in a free and democratic society. We value democracy. We value those the ideas and the values and the belief system and the way of living. Like that's literally why we immigrate to Western countries, because we want to be part of that society. And it doesn't mean it doesn't mean forgetting about our heritage or our culture. Like my parents are proudly Iranian Canadian. I speak fluent Farsi. I speak, read, and write because my parents taught me that. You know, my cooking is terrible, but I can still cook Persian food. I still got to work on my orma sabzi and my tadig, but my writing is not the greatest, but I can still write. But at the end of the day, like my parents taught me, we're Canadian. You are first and foremost a Canadian, and those are the values that you have. And whatever, issues you have or baggage or hatred, you leave back home. You don't bring that to Canada because we come here because of what Canada is like and we embrace those values. So, CG, just to go to your point, um, you need to make some Iranian friends in London, UK, and there are a number of them. Just go to any pro democracy Iran rally, look for the lion and sun flag, and just go to them with your pro democracy Hong Kong flag, and you will make immediate friends because they're there.
I'm actually not from Hong Kong. I'm actually from mainland China.
Oh, okay. My apologies. My apologies. But we still support you because there's a lot of, whether they're from Hong Kong or not, a lot of Chinese people in Canada. And again, like it's the same reason that Iranians immigrate to Western societies is to get away from that sort of ideology. And so we're all on the same page here and we're fighting the same evil. And, the Islamic regime and Putin's Russia and the CCP are all allies. And we all know this. Like they support each other and it's horrible. So
Yeah, and CCP, just like the Islamic regime, the CCP, Winnie the Pooh, is going to get what's coming to them too. Because one of the things that I always said when I was in Clubhouse is that the CCP, when they signed that horrific, face-slapping 25-year colonialism agreement, as I call it, the CCP now owns Iran, thanks to the Islamic occupying regime, because now China literally tells the Islamic regime exactly what to do, and China wants to become the superpower like the U.S., and it's never going to happen because China has a horrific human rights problem, and we got to when we talk about human rights. One of the books I just read was the Uyghur Muslims and what they went through, the hell that they went through because of this disgusting pariah. And I just think people need to really realize, like, it's not even just Iranians getting decimated. It's also the Uyghur Muslim. It's also Tibetans. It's also Hong Kongs. And, so many other groups that are being literally catapulted into brutality because of their disgusting human rights atrocities. So, yeah, CG, thank you so much. We're going to get to these hands.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to know that Xi Jinping is called
Of
Winnie the
course,
Pooh. That's
brother,
surprising.
I read books. I educate myself on, besides Iran, one of the things I'm very into is politics. So you're talking to someone who wants to go back to Iran and literally free his people and to serve his people. So believe me when I tell you, I read books more than I'm on social media, and that's just because I like to grow brain cells, not drain my brain cells. So and Goldie being a politician, I'm sure she's the same way, and she has to be very catapulted to that standard. So, just
Well, so I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go to that standard, but CG. I actually made friends with a very pro democracy Chinese guy on TikTok, and anyone who's on TikTok like over a year ago probably saw the video where he described and translated what Khamenei means in Chinese. CG, do you know what I'm talking about? Because he said Khamenei in Chinese translates to like underpants man or something.
Oh
Is
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah. I mean, it depends on the dialects. Maybe to his dialect. Yes, yes, yes. Indeed, yes. It looks like.
see?
Well, look at your
Like
pants. Maybe
Khamenei or
look at your
something.
pants. 看你内衣. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. He said like Khamenei translates to like underpants man, and that video went viral on Iranian TikTok, and we all like he was like an instant celebrity, and yeah, so like we haven't we're on the same side, but so it's like Khamenei. I think that's what it is, right?
I mean, in Mandarin Chinese, its translation is "ha mei nei." It sounds like, "Hey, you are not wearing pants, underpants," that kind of stuff. But basically, it's associated with your underwear.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what he said, and that was like he made that video, and it was like the best thing ever. Like we just loved it. So it's just funny how these things coincidences, but it was a good joke.
I don't even think he wears pants. I don't even think Waldo even knows what pants are. He literally just wears a onesie robe and a turban over his head that people are smacking around off their heads. So it is what it is. Waldo probably doesn't know what underpants is, but that is pretty funny. I love nothing more than to make fun of an occupier and what he does. So yeah. CG, thank you for being an ally, my friend. Free China from the CCP godless bastards who literally are destroying that country. Beautiful country and beautiful culture, China and Iran have so much in common. I really do hope the CCP gets eviscerated once this regime's gone. Let's go to our two final hands. Guys, this has been 4 hours. Very amazing discussion. Goldie June, you have been a rock star today, for giving us 4 hours of your dedicated time. But before we do go with after these final two hands,
I promised 2 hours, so you owe me. Like,
oh no, I owe you.
don't forget, I'm a politician. I have no soul. So like, I've been here for 2 extra hours. Like, you owe me right now. Like, you just made a deal with the devil,
Okay,
basically.
well,
Just saying.
that's
Not only am I a politician, I'm an Iranian woman politician, which is
I
like,
no
next
caritam,
level.
no glicitam, no glicitam. It's okay.
No,
I
thank you.
owe you.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
قربانت.
John Mendes.
اصلا هیچ حرفیه قربانت. Monarchist, let's go to you, then we'll go to Jack, and then I'm going to play one of our most iconic songs to get us fired up. Monarchist, go ahead, please.
Hey guys. Okay. So I'm not sure if I have anything to say that's like not already been said, but as a member of the diaspora, I've been following everything and listening to these spaces a lot, and obviously I have opinions that need to be expressed. So one of the things that I've been seeing a lot is like I and I'm not going to name names, but I've seen a lot of influencers who are really popular with Gen Z, which I think is technically my generation, but whatever, who say things that like really, obviously the regime agents and those people, okay, we know how to respond to those, which is just blocking them and stuff like that. And then there are these other, groups of people who are these like weird anti-imperialist people who just have some weird, I mean, excuse my language, some weird fetish for the Iranian regime, and those people are just gross. And but then there's another group of people I've seen who are like these people who I think are just naive, and when they see the stuff happening in Iran, they just think it's like only about feminism and nothing else. And being the naive people they are, they basically say like, well, of course I support the rights of Iranian women to choose whether or not to wear hijab, but also, the Iranian regime is a victim of Western imperialism, and I support the no war on Iran, and I support the nuclear deal because, well, the United States has nuclear weapons, and it's just so arrogant for the United States to think they can handle nuclear weapons, but other societies that are developing nations can't. And basically they're those types of people. And I'm at the point where I'm developing a twitch in my eye because those people are very intelligent in almost every single area, every single other area in life. They're very intelligent. They probably know more than me, and they're not bad people. I'm not trying. What I'm trying to say is they're just stupid when it comes to basically Iran. It's like just the one country you pick to know nothing about is actually, well, one of the most important countries, not just in terms of its history, but in terms of Middle Eastern politics today. So you just picked a really bad country to be an idiot on. But when it comes to Iran, they're idiots. And they're, I'm not going to say names, but, they have influence. And they're so I think it's really important for like us in the diaspora to really not like in a try hard way, but in a very organized way, not only to respond to the people who are intentional regime supporters, but then the stupid, basically useful idiots. The basically, okay, for lack of a better term, the Reza Aslans of the non-Iranians. And I think you guys
The
kind of
Nayaks,
understand what
Reza
kind of people I'm
Aslan's like
talking
part of
about.
Nyack, right? Reza Aslan is part of
Well,
Nyack,
okay,
so he's not a useful idiot.
he's
He
doing it
knows
on purpose,
exactly
but
what
you
he's
know what I
doing.
mean. I mean, just
He's
these.
getting paid.
Okay, just basically the useful idiots. There's something we need to do because they're not. I know they're not doing it on purpose, so they're. But there is something we need to almost like. I want to pick their brain because I want to know if they know what we know. Would they not only change their opinion on Iran? Obviously they would, but would they change their political outlook and just get out of this leftist ideological rabbit hole? Obviously they
Not
would
at
change
all.
their opinion
So
on Iran, but
no, no. You know what? They would not change their opinion on
why?
Iran. And I just posted. Well, okay. So I just posted. I just shared a tweet that I made before I joined the
Uh-huh.
space, and I responded to this Canadian guy who's just been trolling me for a
Okay.
while. And like so I don't respond to people on Twitter to change their minds because the trolls will not change their minds. I respond more to like educate the people that are, following me. Educate isn't the right word. It's to just give context to the people who are following me, to share with them the challenge that we face as Iranians. Because like I literally posted a video about how the Islamic regime in Iran arrested Sadiq Boughi, the Iranian, pensioner
Mhm.
who was just posting videos of singing and dancing, and the Islamic regime arrested him
Right.
and forced him to ban his Instagram account. And his crime was literally singing and dancing in public, because singing and dancing in public is a crime by the Islamofascist regime. Like, you cannot do that in Iran. So I posted that, and he made, this really weird random comment about how like you can't make us hate Iran. I support the Islamic regime. The Islamic regime is a defender of human rights. Or someone else posted like Islamic regime is a defender of human
Right.
rights. And so I basically responded. I'm like, this response isn't for you. I'm not going to change your mind. But for everyone else, like Iranian women won the Times Heroes of the Year
Mhm.
award. Shervin Hajipour won the Grammy Award for the best, song for social change. And, Iranian women won the Nobel Peace Prize. So, like this is what's happening right now.
Sure.
So I don't know if we can change these people's minds because they're just so entrenched in their leftist partisan politics that they cannot take a step back and understand that, you know, wherever I fall on the political spectrum, and some people think I'm like alt right, like some people think I'm a far right um warmonger, which is very, very bizarre because I'm not that at all.
Yeah.
Like, I've never called for war. Like, all I've said is like we have to like list the IRGC as a terrorist entity and stop doing business with them. But anyway, but there will always be these woke progressive leftists who will just automatically hate me and hate any Iranian for speaking out because we Iranians do not fit into the narrative of oppressor versus oppressed. Like,
Right.
we do not fit into their narrative, and they don't know how to deal with that. And so for them, their automatic um reaction is, oh, they're Zionists. Or
Right.
it, by the way, nothing wrong with being a Zionist. Like, I'm a Zionist. I believe that, Israel should have the right to exist. Like, I support the state of
Right.
Israel. Like, why should Israel
I'm a,
should
I'm a
not have that? But
political
anyway,
Zionist.
like,
I'm not a religious
you know,
Zionist because I'm not Jewish, but I'm a political Zionist.
me
Right.
too. Like, I'm not Jewish either, but like I support the state of
Right.
Israel. Like, I support their right to exist. Right? Like, why should they not have a right to exist? And again, like, that's literally within our history. Like, Cyrus the Great
Mm.
freed, and I said this at the beginning, Cyrus the Great freed the Jews from their Babylonian enslavement,
Right.
took them back to the promised land, and helped them rebuild the second temple of Jerusalem. And he left Iranian soldiers there to protect them
Mm-hmm.
from whoever was going to attack. And prior to 1979, Iran was one of the safest places for Jewish
Right.
Iranians, right? Especially during World War II. So, like, all that to say, I don't think we can change their minds, but what we can do is we can educate everyone else, because the people who think that way are a very, very vocal minority, and they're vocal, but they are a minority. And we have to remember that social media does not necessarily reflect the real world.
Sure.
It does not. And there is a vast silent majority out there who understand what's going on and who appreciate it and who are grateful to see that there are allies. And I think what we can do as an Iranian community is we can continue to advocate. We can continue to be a strong voice, and we can lead by example when it comes to standing up for humanity and standing up for what's right.
Mm-hmm.
And and that doesn't mean that we don't support Palestinians.
Right.
I support the Palestinian people 100%.
Right.
But, the challenge that the Palestinian people have is the same challenge that Iranians have.
Sure.
Like, Iranians are fighting the IRGC and Palestinians are fighting Hamas.
Right.
But the challenge is, I don't see, like, there are a few Palestinian voices out there. There's a Palestinian peace activist named Bassam Aid, he's in Tel Aviv, and he has been speaking out about, Hamas,
Sure.
and speaking out against them for years. There's Mossab Hassan Yusuf, who's the defected son of a Hamas leader. He's speaking out against Hamas. And there are other Palestinians as well, but they're being drowned out by the vocal minority
Right.
that unfortunately is funded by this propaganda network, which comes from the Islamic regime in
Yeah. Well, I
Iran.
was going to say, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I was going to say, now that you brought that up, why isn't the Palestinian Authority saying anything right now?
They're well, I mean, according to Mossab Hassan Yusuf, they're part of it. So that's not my personal
Like they
opinion.
support Hamas.
I'm just repeating. I'm just repeating what Mossab Hassan Yusuf said.
Okay.
And he has interviews on this. He actually was part of a delegation at the UN a few years ago, and he called out the Palestinian Authority on that.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, so again, that's not me. That's not my personal opinion. I'm just sharing what
that's good to know.
Mossab Hassan Yusuf said.
Wow, I would.
So,
that's really sad.
And I would say that, given that he was born in Hamas, his father is a founding leader of Hamas, and he grew up in that world, and then he defected, and he's speaking out.
Right.
He might know a thing or two.
Yeah.
He's actually going to be.
I can touch base on it if you want me to. If not, we can move on.
Yeah, touch base
No,
with him. I was
I'm-
actually on a panel. Well, I was at an event a few weeks ago. He was the keynote speaker, and then after he spoke, I was part of a group of panelists who were speaking about what he was talking about. So yeah, he knows this stuff. He knows what he's talking about, and I've posted about him on my Twitter as well.
Yeah, I'm also working. I'm not going to say how I'm going to do it, but let's just say that Mr. Youssef will be on the roundtable fairly soon. Can't promise when, but
Okay,
this is
if he's on the roundtable, can you please tell him to stop calling it Iran, because he always attacks Iran, and it really upsets me.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
it's not
He's
Iran, it's the Islamic regime in Iran,
Gee,
not
yeah.
Iran.
No,
Every
listen. I
time he
mean,
does that, it pisses me off.
no,
And
we
he
don't need
did it.
that.
He did it when I was sitting in a room and I was in the front row. And he started talking about Iran. And I was just glaring daggers at him. But I didn't want to interrupt or say anything. But I was just like, okay,
No, no, he's
like
aware of that. There's some misunderstandings, like for example, Israel's ambassador to the UN was when the General Assembly happened, he was holding a picture of Masa Amini when the degenerate butcher of Tehran himself was speaking. But then people try to criticize and say, "Oh, he's supporting MEK," where he genuinely did not know. I want to say Yusuf's the same way. We just got to educate. We got to let him know what to say. And I think the space, a lot of people did not know what to say or what the proper terminology is moving forward. So, like I said, we can't criticize them for if they don't know. I mean, hell, Faisal, my Saudi friend, used to call it Iranian regime, and 4 years ago, I've known the man since the clubhouse days. He's been very adamant in calling it Islamic regime or occupying regime. We just
listen,
got to educate.
Faisal is great, and you know what? People
Yeah,
are learning, and that's all we can do. But
exactly, exactly.
I was in the same room as Mossad. And when he started saying that, I could have said something, but I was like, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut because I don't want to interrupt him. I don't want to be disrespectful. But the Iranian woman in me was like,
Yeah, yeah. The
buddy.
the Nala, the
So
Nala from Lion King just came out, and you wanted to just stick your claws in something. I totally get it.
yeah.
I get it. No, trust me, I get it all the time. When I hear that, it's like, what are you talking? It's Islamic regime. Anyway, so Shaw's man, you got your hand up. We're gonna go to Jack, and then we'll finish it up with some musiki. Shaw's man.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I just wanted to say 100%. You guys hit it on the head. Musab Hassan Yusuf, I remember literally the first time I heard this man speak, and I almost cried out, into the sky and said, "That's the guy that I want to be representing, leading Palestinians one day." I mean, if this guy is, just sitting there being sensible, identifying the problem of his society as Hamas and the people that prop it up, and that he wants to transition that mindset to actually one that's of building rather than destroying. I mean, yes, yes. That's why, exactly like many people here said, I'm never going to let anyone tell me that I don't support the Palestinian people. I feel like the fights are related. I support the Palestinian people in getting a government that is actually accountable to them and that is following norms and building a future for them rather than just trying to destroy the current reality that is any possibility of a two-state solution or any peaceful coexistence. So we need more voices like Musab Hassan Youssef, and there was also Louay. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce his first name, but Louay
Bye.
Ahmed. Yeah,
Loi,
okay.
Loi.
Yeah, yeah. So that guy's Yemeni, and he had firsthand experience with how awful the Houthis are. And guess what? Lo and behold, that's another spoke in the axis of resistance that is entirely funded by the Islamic Republic occupying Iran. So it's just good things. Those voices need to be amplified, and I'm so glad that name came up. But yeah, great space, Alex. Thank you so much, Goldie, for making the time to come here. Sarah, thank you so much for everything you do for MassAct. Thank you everyone who took up a mic and contributed with some questions for Goldie and some good insight as well. Especially Kirk, you brought us a lot of great insight. So thank you so much. And that's it. Yeah, let's get to the last speaker, Alex, and then play us out a song, and let's call it a successful night.
I got you, baby boy. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, Jack, go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly. Go ahead.
Perfect. Sorry. I just wanted to say, first of all, like, I want to thank like the Iranian community, especially on X these past couple of weeks, because I was getting a lot of like facts about the conflict going on right now because I was abroad and I made two friends from Israel specifically. Thank gosh both of them are okay and stuff. It was a very scary reality on October 7th when I had to reach out to them because I was afraid to hear the result. But the reason I came on here was just like I don't know like if it's weird because I know there's a lot of different people from Canada, the US, or other parts of the world, but the one thing I've realized that's become really sad within, you know, like my community and also around the United States was just how ignorant they kind of are to the whole like what is like how the Islamic regime and Hamas like intertwine with each other because I've had tried to have these conversations with people and they're saying that's not true. Like you don't know that for certain. It's way more complicated than that, but it just kind of shocks me automatically because it makes me realize how ignorant the education system has been for a lot of Americans. Because you know, obviously, I want people to know that it's not like this black and white thing where it's like one thing to another. Like it really saddens me to see that we're seeing now on the streets, like seeing like calling for like intifadas and stuff. And to be honest, I don't know much about that specific word, but based on the reactions I've seen, it's not good. And one more thing that I think really was the icing on the cake that made me really want to get involved with the community was just the fact I can't remember the exact account, but there was this one woman who was saying like Iranian women need to shut up, which really surprised me because the whole point was saying like they're trying to act like like they're trying to be whitewashed, and it was really disgusting to see that kind of thing because when I looked and like studied people, okay, sorry, that's not a good way to say that. I'm so sorry, no, but like when I looked at people's X accounts to learn more about the activism, like it didn't make sense to me. And Goldie, by the way, you were the first politician I saw on the X app that really I watched the whole 8 to 9 minute video you made. I forgot what it. Sorry, I'm not from Canada, so I don't know like what the whole meeting was when it comes like the House of Commons or where it was. But I just remember your speech, and that really woke me up because it made me realize how important it is to, you know, have these voices. And I was just wondering also just for the main people, like, am I on the right track? Like, do we need more voices within the Iranian community? Because I'm going to be honest, I'm just an American. I'm not of Iranian descent or anything, but is it important to have those voices, especially nowadays when we're seeing a lot of anti-Semitism and a lot of hate, especially like within like TikTok, for example. I know that's like the last app people look for like social media. I mean, for like social media, like information, but like you see these horrific videos that like it really questions like people's morals. And I was just wondering what more I could do, or I don't know if I'm on the right track. That's all I'm asking. Thank you for having this, by the way.
Jack, you are 100% on the right track. You are on the right side of history. Um, the terrorist and illegitimate Islamic regime funds, trains, and arms Hamas. Like, we know this. All Iranians know this. And in fact, um, like every time there's an uprising in Iran and it gets to the point where the Islamic regime is almost toppled over, they literally bring in their proxy militias. They bring in Hamas, they bring in
Right.
Hezbollah, they bring in the Houthis. And those people are on the streets of Iran, literally murdering Iranians, committing the same atrocities that they did to the Jewish people on October 7 to
Yeah.
Iranians. And so you're absolutely on the right track. And there's a reason that the hashtag Iranians stand with Israel was trending. There's a reason that the IDF has a Farsi Twitter account. There's a reason that the state of Israel has an official Farsi account. And that's because of the allyship between the state of Israel and Iranians within Iran and around the world. There is one country in the Middle East where there has not been a spontaneous um, pro Hamas rally in support of the October 7 genocidal massacre, and that's Iran. So, literally, the country that is governed by the most anti Semitic, Holocaust denying, Islamo-fascist terrorist regime in the world, the root cause of terror, the biggest, state sponsor of terrorism in the world. That same country, its civilians, its population, have not protested against Israel the way that
Yeah.
we have seen in the West, right? Like any protest you see is literally organized and funded by the Islamic regime in Iran, where they force people out, and it's like a government protest. And there's reasons for that. The people who are there either work for the Islamic regime, or they come out because they're so poor that the Islamic regime like buses them to the rally, and then gives them like food and juices after. And we call them Sundays khor. And we feel bad for them because they're very poor people. But this is how the Islamic regime controls Iranians, by keeping them in poverty, so that they can literally just say to them, come to this rally that we're organizing and we'll give you food. And people come because that's how poor and destitute they are. even though even though the ayatollahs are worth billions, the same way that Hamas leadership is worth billions, the ayatollahs are worth even more billions than them. But people don't talk about that. So listen, you're 100% on the right track. And all I can say is, you can try talking to people, but the vast majority of people already know which side to stand on. um you can try arguing with the vocal minority, but those are the people who accuse Iranian women of being Islamophobic. Those are the same people who try to dox Iranian women. Those are the same people who
Right.
make videos about Iranian women. And so we don't really deal with them. We just ignore them because they're irrelevant. And by the way, where were they when we were protesting against the Islamic regime for years? Where were they when Bashar al-Assad, the terrorist leader of Syria, who's backed by the Islamic regime, by the way, where
Yeah.
were they when Bashar al-Assad like uh, genocided, murdered, executed over 200,000 Syrians? Where were they when just like a week ago, Pakistan expelled 2 million Afghanis and forced them to go back to Afghanistan
The
into the hands
Taliban.
of the
Yeah.
Taliban? Right? Where were they? Where are these people when China, the CCP, not China, the CCP has been persecuting the Uyghur Muslims? Where were they when Boko Haram was going after innocent people? They were nowhere. Why is it now all of a sudden they're all out, right?
Yeah.
They're
And
all out.
Skip, I
And
say one more quick
the
thing.
hypocrisy is resounding
Yeah.
because Iranians, Syrians, Chinese Uyghurs, uh, Afghanis, we've all been speaking out for years and they've ignored us.
Yeah, because
Sorry.
wait, can you hear me right here?
Yeah, you're audible, brother.
Yes, sorry, I just want to make sure. No, and that was the other main thing that made me really question this whole narrative that's being spread. Because when I see, because I actually studied, I originally graduated from university, and I recently graduated with international studies, and I learned about all these like horrific attacks, the, what makes me mad, like especially, well, I'm glad you mentioned it, Goldie, was the fact that there was no outrage, like when there was, I don't even know, like even when like for example, like Iraq, when they displaced like millions of Christians, or when it comes to like Turkey with like the Kurds, it's like, to me, I don't understand why, like, to me, I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but like to me, it makes me really angry the fact that they're not calling each other out on these crimes against humanity. Like, why is it now considered this when this has been happening since, like, I was only born in 2000 and a lot has happened? Like, where was the outrage? Like, why were people ignoring this all of a sudden? It just didn't, like, it's like, it didn't add up to me for the longest time. But I think that's why I got so like outraged about it, because I was just like you're saying free all this stuff, but where were you? I'm very lucky that I have a very close friend who is Iranian. Like, her parents fled from the revolution, unfortunately, but like it was just crazy how no one was saying anything about like Masa Amini, for example. Like, there was no huge, like, you guys know Instagram. You see all these posts, you don't see them at all with it. And now it's happening. I guess it, like, that's what really, I guess, confused me the whole time, was why aren't they calling each other out? Is that bad to ask? I don't know.
No, it's not, because there's a hashtag that says no Jews, no news.
Right. Yeah. No, that
Like,
makes sense,
hashtag
actually.
no Jews, no news. Right?
Yeah,
Jack,
exactly.
Jack, right?
Muslims killing Muslims, no one speaks out. Muslims killing Muslims, no one speaks out. And, you know, the Islamofascists are the biggest murderers of Muslims around the world. That's the reality. They're killing us. They're hanging children. They're executing us by the thousands in all countries of the Middle East, in Africa, in China, and in so many places. But if it's not Jewish people, no one cares. They don't
Right.
care. They don't speak up. And when Iranian women do try to speak out against it, or Iranian men, or anyone else, they silence us and they tell us that we're just Zionists or Mossad shills, which makes no sense to me, because we were speaking out about Masa Amini for over a year before October 7 happened.
Or called an Islamophobe for some reason.
Oh, 100%. And listen, if I got $1 for every time someone accused me of being Islamophobic, I would be a millionaire by now.
Oh, is it
Like,
really
I don't
that
know.
bad?
If
Wow.
if if someone has like an app that can help me monetize this, where like anytime someone accuses me of being Islamophobic, I can get like $1. Please, like, I will like give you 50% of my revenue, because I'm not even joking. Like, I could be a millionaire right now. Like, and I'm a politician, so people try to cancel me because they're like, "Oh, politics,
Right.
like, we're going to cancel her." And I'm like, "No, no, no. You cannot cancel me, because I will use your identity politics against you. I am a Middle Eastern, visible minority, immigrant, Iranian, women, politician in Canada.
You can't be tricked. That's the
I
issue. You
can't,
can't
like,
be tricked.
I can't be attacked, because anyone who wants to accuse me of being like anti-immigrant, well, I'm an immigrant. I'm literally an immigrant. Like, I came here when I was a year old. I became a Canadian citizen when I was 4 years old. So how am I anti-immigrant? And then people say I'm Islamophobic. Okay, well, I'm from Iran. I come from like a Muslim background. So how am I Islamophobic? And then people are like, "You're racist." And I'm like, "Well, how am I racist? I'm literally a visible minority." And then people are like, "You hate women." And I'm like, "Okay, but I'm a woman. So how can I hate women?" So
That happened with like Sarah Edon too. She was like Miss Iraq. She's like known for taking a picture with Miss Israel for the purpose of peace.
I
And
love her. She's amazing.
but like
And she's
it
so
was,
outspoken.
didn't she lose her Iraq citizenship? Like,
Uh
didn't she lose it or something? But
I I can't confirm that, but I know that she's been very
fair.
outspoken about terrorism in the Middle East.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because she's like a
And
secular Muslim and like is like calling,
yeah.
like, it's really sad actually, like hearing, like, her story is amazing, but I couldn't believe the amount of death threats she got. It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But
So
Well,
Jack.
I was also younger.
Yeah. So Jack, you're.
death threats is like a reality for Iranians. Like, all the
Mm,
Iranians here, like, we're just like used to that by now. Like, it's just like, you know, like, it's like, how many death threats do you get in a day? Like,
right,
how many
yeah.
do you have to
Unfortunate, but
report?
it's like, yeah.
It's and we only joke about it because it's like a horrific reality, because as Iranians, the way we deal with our trauma with the Islamic regime in Iran is through humor, literally. Like, if we
It's
if we
health.
can't laugh
It
about
work.
it,
It
what else can we
helps.
do?
Yeah. So Jack, very quickly because I do gotta go, guys. But I see Ducato's here. I wanted him to speak, and then I'll go to the rest of these other hands. I do gotta get up in like 5 hours, but I love you guys a lot. That's why I let it happen. So, Jack, you're in the United States, right?
Correct.
Okay, wonderful. And you're born in 2000, which is amazing. First of all, I want to say thank you for actually trying to educate yourself. One of the things I will recommend to you is follow everybody who's speaking today, okay? Especially Sarah, Emily, who's listening, Hope. Follow the Massa Act Army. Follow the Massa Act legislation. That one, if you want to get involved, all you got to do is call your congressional men and women. Okay, if you want to get involved, definitely get involved legislatively here in the states. Don't know where you are. Don't want. I don't want to know where you are because this app is very
It's
doxy.
crazy.
Yeah. So follow Sarah, follow Hope, follow Emily. You can also follow me. I host wonderful spaces. Sarah and Emily and Nick. His name is Nick Neckbot, and Sarah's affiliated. You can just follow her. You'll see everything that we've been doing since the revolution started. You'll see all these speakers who are up, including Goldie June. Today was just an honor to have her for 4.5 hours, mind you, a politician. So just follow us, get us if you want to get involved, spread it to friends who will listen. And I think that's the best way you can get involved. And you seem to be very well into what's going on. And to your friend, she's Iranian. Just tell her that hope is on the way. You know, this regime
Good.
is on its deathbed, and tell her that if she has a Twitter, if she has social media, to follow everybody on Twitter or X as they call it now here, and to come to these roundtables because that's one of the things my goal personally is to get everybody united and is to get on one cause, and that is to free Iran and to free from all these thugs, as I call them. So I appreciate you, Jack. Thank you for just being an amazing person and listening to us and taking the time out of your night tonight to come into this space. I genuinely personally wanted to say that as the host, but you know, I always say this is not my room. This is our room. So you're always
Of
more than
course.
welcome. So thank you so much, my brother. I do got to get to these hands, Jack, but I didn't want to be rude. Thank you
No
so
problem. I just
much.
want to say thank you. That's all.
No, thank you from the bottom of my heart as an Iranian. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it. Sarah and Shaz, man, thank you for co-hosting with me. I am so sorry this is dragging on so long. I know you guys are either tired or like eating, and we're gonna get quick as we can. So I want to go to Ducato because Goldie, you're gonna love this. My friend Ducato is in Iran, so Ducato.
I know him very well. We've spoken
Okay,
before.
awesome. I didn't know. So
درود بر
Ducato John.
شما.
درود دکارو عزیز بفرما.
درود بر تک تک عزیزان. Hello everyone. So first of all, thank you for having these spaces. Thank you for taking the time out of your days to do this. I know it's hard. It's funny how we can't predict anything when it comes to this revolution. For example, I did not see in my wildest dreams that a 70-year-old man dancing in the bazaar of Rasht would be this big and would bite the Islamic Republic in the ass in this certain way. And I'm loving it. It is showing that all that they have done all these years to divide us hasn't worked. And we stand united, and they're scared shitless of small acts like even dancing. And then they go around and they talk about their new drones that are defensive drones and have air-to-air missiles and whatnot, and claim that we have 1,000 of them. I don't know how many they have,
Quantum
but I don't
computer.
think they have. What, Sean?
I was gonna say also their quantum computer.
Oh my God, do not even get me started on the quantum computer. But we shouldn't be taking them, as a joke, especially these drones, because we have seen what they can do with these stupid ass drones in Ukraine, with the Houthis, and all of the others. So they are getting more dangerous, and we need to be pushing news like the drone news, like I think the non-binary actor Mohammad Sadiqi's news. These things need to be pushed. The world needs to know a little bit more. And spaces like these are great. I do not know what you guys discussed, but Goldie, Alex, Sarah, the Shaftsman, everyone, thank you for doing this because these spaces are really important these days, and we need to keep the attention on this, not just because of us, because I believe that the source, and it's not something I believe, it's the truth, it's a fact that the source of all of these problems is the Islamic Republic, and the world needs to know about it more. Every time I go into spaces, I catch new people that didn't know and are happy to know and want to help. And we should be doing this more and more each day. So thank you everyone for doing this.
قربان عزیز دل من مواظب خودت باش. It's always good to hear your voice. I always pray for you, Dakota John. You're in the hornet's nest, as I say. You're the first person I ever met on this app, before I met the wonderful people who are my co-hosts and everybody else. We're like a family here. درود بر شما تک تک. مواظب خودت باش عزیز دل. So thank you, Dakota John. I'm glad you're doing. You keep fighting. You keep dancing. Knock the turbans off those jockishes, and then we're gonna keep doing these spaces for you. All right, two
Ducato,
final speakers.
sorry,
Yeah,
I just want to say really quickly, Ducato, I actually posted a video about Sadiq, and I dedicated International Human Rights Day to him. And I showed how the Islamofascist Ayatollahs are scared of an old man who's retired dancing in the streets. And I showed how Iranians are retaliating. They made a remix of his song Damishun Garm, and they're dancing across Iran with this song, which is a banger, and I love it. Like, I've learned the lyrics of the song already. So Damishun Garm, and this is how we fight back. We fight back by making sure they can't erase our culture and our history. And please be safe. Please be safe in Iran. Like, we need you. We need everyone like you who's fighting on the inside. You're the true heroes.
I know how to
yes.
avoid these idiots. Don't worry about me. I've been handling them for a while. It's been a long time. I know how to avoid them, and I'm very careful. Thank you.
It took a freaking fisherman from Rasht, out of all places, to piss these occupiers off. That's just
Yeah,
it's like,
but don't mess with Rash. Like, I mean, I'm
oh no.
Ahwazi, I'm Shushtari. I love my Bandari, but like when it comes to Rash, you don't mess with them. When a Rashti is dancing, we all dance because their
So,
music is like amazing.
Yeah,
So
Goldie, I don't know if you have seen the videos of the early days of Mahsa Amini Revolution. Rashed were heroes. There was this kid, I don't know where he is. I hope
100%.
he is. I hope he is live and well. He jumped and air kicked into a Basiji's head so good. And I still remember it vividly to this day. And I will remember it to the day like he air kicked the guy. Like, where are you
I
from?
remember
Shaolin?
that. He was like, it was on the street. Like, they were chasing, and then, like, they started, like, chasing them back. And then you see the video of, like, a guy just, like, jumping in the air kicking the guy in the head. I remember that. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, Rashtis, you don't mess with the Rashtis. Like, they're the best. I love them. You guys are amazing. I love your music.
Somalis.
But
Yes. No.
yeah, like you're the best, and I love Rush. Like, one of my favorite provinces in Iran.
Yes, yes. And when it gets hot as hell in Iran, we go to Shamal and Rash to cool off. Believe me, I cannot wait to visit the beautiful city of Rash. I love my Rashti people. A lot of Rashti brothers and sisters I know who are actually still in this fight, mind you. When I say compatriots, Rash is one of the cities, but that's all I'm going to say. So, Dakota John, you air kick him for me in spirit until I come back. No, listen, Dorash. Hope and Monarchist, you guys are the last two final remaining speakers. I'm going to go to Hope because Hope is a lady, and then we'll go to Monarchist. Hope, please go ahead.
Hi, Alexa Aziz. Thank you so much again for hosting this amazing space. 4 hours went by so quickly. So bless you. Thank you again. I actually came up to invite Jack to our space, but you did a fabulous job introducing us, and I followed him first, and then he followed me back, and I did message him. I think he left the space, but Again, I just came up really quick, of course, to say thank you to everyone, including Goldie and all the amazing speakers, and then also to just once more to invite everyone to follow the co-hosts here, myself, if you want, and other speakers, because we do have Massac Space, I believe, coming up this Wednesday evening, and really looking forward for more activism and more grassroots people that can help us change the landscape in the United States as far as Iran foreign policy goes, and really politicians to push forward what we need to push forward to eventually get our Iran back. Thank you. Love you all. I'm going to go down.
قربان عزیزتم ممنون از شما هستم. Thank you for your hard work and dedication to everything you do. واقعا I love the energy in this room right now, especially Hope and everybody who's spoken. But let's really give a round of applause to Sarah because she kicked ass in that Nufti conference, and we were supposed to talk about that, but then the war happened, so we completely forgot about that because our brothers and sisters in Israel had the worst genocide massacre attack to them. So that's what's crazy. It's Sarah, you remember this, but like I was like, yeah, we need to talk about Nufti, but then all of a sudden these Hamas terrorists decided to pull off one of the worst atrocities I've seen in a while since 9/11. So we'll just everybody give a shout out to Sarah, man. She does so much. She's given us her time, and Shaw's man, wonderful Pahlavi podcast this afternoon. I was so glad I actually woke up early for it because I was dead asleep, and then all of a sudden, we decided to do that. So I love all you guys with all the bottom of my heart. Monarchist, you have the honor of being the last speaker. Please go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to thank everyone. I'm learning new things every time I come on these. Okay, so I remember, I think it was Jack who was like, well, why aren't these people speaking out against when something doesn't fit their narrative? Why is it that they don't speak out against that? And again, I think everyone here, I'm pretty sure I'm preaching to the choir, but it's just, I just wanted to reiterate. I don't know, why is it that Turks still don't talk about the Armenian genocide? It's not that hard. And I heard that some of them do talk about, no, they don't deny it, although some of them did deny it. Others, they don't deny it. They actually admit that it happened, but they don't like to speak about it because they say it's something that when people talk about it, they believe that it's like they have an agenda to destabilize them. So the point is, first of all, that's a completely stupid way of thinking. There's no way to defend that type of thinking. But second of all, these are the way that we have to understand the mindset of these people. They really feel, I believe, I mean, first of all, they're assholes, but you have to understand who you're working with and their mindset. And I think they really have that mindset where they think it's somehow some conspiracy is there to like destabilize their I don't know what their values or their identity or whatever it is. And it's a really hard thing to work with because it's really hard to get through those people. Because they're so set in that mindset. I mean, and then even when they do admit, then they just have this like really annoying like thing where they're like, okay, well, these people did something bad, but well, America also did these bad things. Do you condemn that? And then it just gets into this weird thing. It's like they can't just straight up look you in the eye and just say, okay, that was wrong. And it's really, really annoying. And again, I'm preaching to the choir here, but yeah, like we need to like, I really need to know like healthy ways to confront this because so far I've just not been confronting this healthily. Anyway, yeah.
No,
The
I
only
appreciate
the
you.
only way to deal with whataboutism is to ignore
Right.
it. Just ignore. Just ignore. I mean, we have been dealing with whataboutism for over a year. Like I remember, I had 280,000 followers on TikTok, and like a year ago, Every single time I posted about, the Islamic regime, I'm not even joking. I would get so many comments from people saying, "What about Palestine? What about Gaza?" And in my head, I'm thinking, uh, I mean, okay, like that's definitely an issue, but I'm an Iranian Canadian.
Yeah, you get up.
Like
Yeah.
I'm speaking out about the atrocities in Iran. Like if you want to speak out about what's happening in your country, or your state, like that's fine. Like I have no issues with that. I support human rights, but don't come to me and post on something that I'm posting about Iran and say, what about Gaza, what about Palestine? And we've, as Iranians, we have been dealing with that whataboutism for over a year, well before October 7th, and now we're seeing even more of it. And it's just like, okay, well, that's great, but what about Iran? What about Iranians? I mean, I don't see Iranian people going to every single other post about other human rights issues around the world and responding with, what about Iran? Like, we don't do that because, everyone has the right to speak out about what they want to speak out about. And like this is what we as Iranians have been speaking out about for years. And not only did we not get any support from the Middle East, but now we're being attacked and we're being doxxed. And, there are people out there trying to silence Iranian women for speaking out about the same issue that we have been speaking out for years. Because all of a sudden it doesn't fit into their agenda because the Islamic regime supports Hamas. And it's just very frustrating.
Absolutely.
So I don't have an answer for you, but I do know where you're coming from because we've all experienced it. And I'm sure Sarah has more to say on this because she's also experienced this, as well as Hope and every single other Iranian woman that's listening right now.
Yeah, no, it's if you, God forbid, the Palestinian women are telling Iranian women to shut their mouths. You don't know what you're talking about. That's the message, apparently. Dakado Aziz, I'm going to let you have the final floor because you're in Iran. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. What I want to mention here is that actually we have the right to say what about Iran, because these people are coming out worldwide, speaking out about women's rights, children's rights, innocents' rights. And my question is, where the hell were you, and especially to those who are claiming to be defending Islam, where the hell were you when over 100 people were shot dead during namaz, during Friday namaz, during Friday prayers in Zahedan? Over 350 people were injured. Where the hell were you then? Why didn't you say one word? That is a question to me here. And to my other point, I'm sorry, but the thing is that Iranians have been standing against the tyranny and the terrorism of the Islamic Republic, and yet the world remains silent. However, in the case of Palestinians, the best of them stay away and stand by while this happens, and the worst of them support this, celebrate death, celebrate people being raped, celebrate with cream puffs like Raisi did after executions. So I don't think that we would be in the wrong if we were to go to, stuff about Palestine and say, hey, what about Iran? But anyways, at the end, I wanna end with my favorite testament. Humankinds are members of a whole, in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is afflicted with pain, other members uneasy shall remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human you shall not retain. Thank you. And as John says it, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Iran.
زنده باشی عزیز دل من واقعا دمت گرم. Guys, thank you so much for this wonderful space. To the co-host, to Shazman, to Sarah, Kirk, thank you for sticking around. I really appreciate the time you gave us. Goldie, I don't know what to say. A wonderful time. I had a wonderful
Dude,
4.5.
I wasn't expecting to be here for like over 4 hours, but time flew by.
Yeah, it did.
And, Decado, I just want to say to you, actually, so I made a speech in the Ontario legislature, and I started it with that exact same poem. I put Sadi and his poem in the Ontario legislature in Hansard, and it's going to be recorded for life. And I explained that, he has this poem there, and it's depicted on the door to the United Nations, the first part of it. So thank you for sharing that poem because it's so important. And I've made so many speeches where I've started with that because, you know what, Dami Adam. Bani Adam افزای یکدیگرند یک پیکرند. So there you go. My
Yes.
Persian isn't the greatest, but I know the lyrics. So I
It's
know it's
wonderful.
Bani Adam. So we're all there, and you're absolutely right. Like if we cannot call out hatred, and if we cannot call out pain, if we don't have sympathy for other human beings, then we cannot call ourselves human. And he said that centuries ago. And I think today it's one of the most relative poems, one of the most important poems that anyone can learn and read and think about. And I think about it all the time. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you everyone for having me on. Sorry for keeping you all so late.
Not at all. No, this was an honor. This is an honor. Having a politician on. No, not gonna put that off my bucket list. Thank you so much, Goldie June. And this work, this collaboration, this experience I've had was an honor. It was a privilege. I learned so much tonight, and just thank you to everybody who came up. Thank you to everybody who spoke from the heart, spoke wonderful questions. I mean, it just the knowledge we gained was wonderful. And also thank you to my co-host Zach Metrom Kashidin. You guys and ladies that did such an amazing job. Shazman, wonderful space this early. Dakota John, Kirk, thank you so much, brother. Goldie June, I sent you a message. I don't know if you got it or not, but we can talk about that later. So, guys, I want to play a music. Since this is about Iran, this is the Iran Roundtable. I'm going to play one of the most classic. I want to go old school on you guys tonight. I'm going to play a little Feridun Farabzadeh for you guys. So, Heart Reacted. If you know the song, I'm going to let you guys play it. But this song is going to be played when the Islamic regime is fall. So here we go. Hold on one